Chapter 2745 Chaos Demon Sea Mi Luo, Grotto Heaven. On the same night, Lu Boya sat cross-legged and played with a jade talisman with his head down. The jade talisman surged with obscure restriction order fluctuations, but these restriction order fluctuations gradually dissipated and disappeared. In the end, the jade talisman also shattered. Seeing this scene, Lu Boya also felt relieved. He let out a long breath and murmured, "Brother Tong Tian, I borrowed your great-grandson's hand to quell the disaster of Luo family. This doesn't count as breaking the oath, right? Actually, even if you blame me for not keeping my word, I will still do it. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll have to spend the rest of my life in guilt and debt." Lu Boya's expression was calm, and his eyes were clear. Over these few years, he lay dormant in the chaotic Devil's Sea and only did three things. First, establish a sect, and establish Mi Luo Grotto Heaven. Mi Luo Grotto Heaven now had more than 100 successors, and every one of them was a first-class Dao tattoo grandmaster in the world. This was an extremely terrifying force. Second, collect and inquire about Luo Qingheng, Luo Xiao, and Luo Tongtian. He had already told these secrets and news to Lin Sun, solving the doubts that had been hidden in Lin Sun's heart for many years. Third, prepare a trump card for Lin Sun. Before entering Chaos Demon Sea, Lu Boya had already learned that the abstruse Forbidden Zone, regarded as one of the three forbidden zones of Chaos Demon Sea, was covered with a congenital restriction order formation derived from the power of order. After years of exploration and inquiry, he finally confirmed one thing. The abstruse Forbidden Zone was distributed with 9 kinds of restriction order formation that were born from the congenital. Every kind of restriction order possessed a terrifying and boundless power. 60 years ago, Lu Boya launched an operation and broke into the abstruse Forbidden Zone. After exhausting all his knowledge, he successfully subdued a kind of restriction order. This kind of restriction order was called restriction order. It was one of the 9 kinds of restriction order distributed in the abstruse Forbidden Zone. Unfortunately, he couldn't subdue the spirit born in this restriction order. Later on, Lu Boya found out that the spirit of order had long since become one with the mysterious forbidden region. Unless one possessed the power to suppress the entire mysterious forbidden region, the spirit of order would not be able to escape. Otherwise, he couldn't take the spirit of order away at all. After spending close to 10 years of painstaking effort, Lu Boya condensed the order of restriction into a Dao sword and handed it to Lin Sun when he left the Mi Luo Grotto Heaven. And this sword became Lin's trump card for revenge on the Luo family. It's a pity that I didn't subdue the spirit of order, so the power of the seal of order won't be able to exist for long. Otherwise, it could have served as the guardian order of the Luo clan. When he thought of this matter, Lu Boya couldn't help but feel slightly regretful. The Forbidden Order was indeed terrifying and could be considered a rare rank, 9 heaven rank. However, because it did not have an order spirit, the Forbidden Order was like a shell without a soul. It would dissipate as its power was exhausted. There was nothing he could do about it. The mystic forbidden region was too terrifying. If it was Lu Boya at his peak, he would still have the confidence to try it. However, he still had the power of the 5 decay tribulation left in his body, so he didn't dare to go all out. Otherwise, he would suffer a calamity before he could subdue the order power. Lu Boya took out a pot of wine and drank it by himself. He looked absent-minded, as if he was lost in reminiscence. To think that all those years ago, Brother Tong Tian was like an invincible tiger with an imposing aura. Even if it was during the last era, he could be considered as a top-rate and peerless hero. Yet never had I imagined that at the final step towards eternity, you would be harmed by a villain. My lord treated me as a national warrior, and I will repay him with the same. Now, Sunner has finally grown up. In the future, I will assist him and avenge you." After that, he drank up the wine in the pot and stood up. The internal trouble of the Luo family was gone, but there were still external enemies. The night was as dark as ink. Dragon's Pine Mountain was shrouded in faint starlight. In front of the collapsed Emerald Mountain, Lin Sun withdrew his gaze from the suppressed Luo Chong and looked at the elders of the main bloodline in the distance. Seniors, how do you think we should deal with Luo Chong and the others? Lin Sun asked. Lin Sun, you are the great-grandson of the Lord of Tongtian. Without your help tonight, the internal trouble of the Luo family will never be solved. Everything will be decided by you. A tall and thin elder in the lead said in a deep voice. The other elders of the main bloodline nearby also nodded. Without Lin Sun, they would still be imprisoned in the Thunderclap Mountain, and the internal trouble headed by Luo Chong and Pei Ru would never be eradicated. It could be said that Lin Sun conquered the elders of the main bloodline of the Luo family with his strength. What's more, Lin Sun was the great-grandson of a lord of Tongtian, so he could be regarded as a member of the main bloodline of the Luo family. In that case, I won't stand on ceremony. As Lin Sun said, he slapped Luo Chong. Bang! Luo Chong, who was suppressed on the ground, was instantly killed by Lin Sun's palm. His body and soul were destroyed, and his blood splashed high. He didn't have time to struggle or react. It was too fast. Lin Sun killed Luo Chong without hesitation. The big shots of the branches of the Luo family were all frightened. Their faces turned pale, and they said in a trembling voice, Luo Chong is a traitor. He deserves to be killed. But we are not traitors. We have never betrayed the Luo family. Lin Sun, Pei Ru, and Luo Chong have all been killed. We didn't see through their conspiracy until tonight. Ignorance is not a crime. I hope you can spare our lives. After all, we are all relatives. If we had known that Luo Chong was a traitor, we would never have tolerated him until now. Lin Sun, the Luo family is in troubled times now. We did a lot of stupid things before, but we promise that we will turn over a new leaf and atone for our sins by meritorious deeds. These people used to be in charge of the Luo family with great power, but now they were all in a panic. All of them tried to disassociate themselves from Lin Sun and exonerate themselves. They were afraid that Lin Sun would kill them all. Lin Sun said indifferently, You can avoid death, but you can't escape punishment. You have suppressed the elders of the main bloodline for countless years, so I will give you a chance to atone for your sins. From today on, all of you will stay in the Thunderclap Mountain. What do you think? The faces of the big shots of the branches suddenly became gloomy. The Thunderclap Mountain was the place where the sinners of the clan were imprisoned. It was extremely dangerous. If they were suppressed in it, they would suffer countless tortures and pains day and night. Lin Sun, you can't do this. It's all Luo Chong's fault. Why should we all be implicated? It's not fair. A man shouted angrily. Lin Sun slapped his palm across the air. Bang! The man was directly killed on the spot. For Lin Sun, he could easily kill an emperor ancestor without using any trump card. This bloody scene also shocked all the people present. The clansmen of the main bloodline of the Luo family couldn't help but gasp and change their expressions. Lin Sun's eyes were cold. I don't want to say anything more. Either die or be imprisoned in the Thunderclap Mountain. Make your choice. The expressions of the clansmen of the branch of the Luo family were uncertain. No one spoke for a long time. Obviously, they had accepted the fate of being imprisoned. Lin Sun said, Of course, this doesn't mean you can keep your lives. When my grandfather and uncle wake up, they will convict you. Lin Sun's words made the hearts of the big shots of the branch of the Luo family sink to the bottom. Lin Sun didn't care what they thought. After doing all this, he looked at the elders of the main bloodline of the Luo family in the distance and said, Seniors, what do you think of my punishment? Lin Sun, I thank you on behalf of these old bones. The tall old man bowed to salute. The other elders of the main bloodline also saluted with solemn and serious expressions. Then, in the darkness, the clansmen of the main bloodline of the Luo family and other areas also saluted at this moment, full of excitement and gratitude. They knew clearly that it was Lin Sun who helped the main bloodline turn the situation around and change their situation at one stroke tonight. Lin Sun didn't feel anything and accepted it calmly. I'll leave the other things to you. I'll stay in Jinjiao Peak until I leave the Luo family, Lin Sun said and walked away. Jianjia Peak. It was the place where his mother Luo Qingxuan and uncle Luo Qingheng cultivated. Soon after Lin Sun left, the Luo family, which had experienced a night of turmoil, carried out a big cleanup under the leadership of a group of elders of the main bloodline. The big shots of the branches were all escorted to the Thunderclap Mountain and imprisoned. The clansmen of the branches distributed in the Luo family were also captured one by one, waiting to be dealt with later. The whole Luo family spent the night in such a busy and turbulent state. Lin Sun didn't care about these things. He didn't want to get involved in these trivial affairs of the Luo family. After all, his surname was not Luo, and he had no sense of belonging to the Luo family. After arriving at Jinjia Peak, he settled his uncle Luo Qingheng and grandfather Luo Xiao down and carefully healed them. After that, Luo Xuanfu and Luo Xuanjin came in a hurry. Uncle, they saluted together with deep awe and admiration in their excited expressions. Anything else? Lin Sun asked with a smile. They shook their heads in unison. Luo Xuanfu said, Uncle, we hope that you will be the patriarch of the Luo family in the future and take charge of the Luo family. Yes, Luo Xuanjin said seriously. This is not our idea. Most of the people of the main branch of the Luo family are looking forward to you taking charge of the Luo family. Lin Sun was stunned and shook his head no. He was not interested in taking over the Luo family. It was not because the power of the Luo family was declining and the situation was extremely bad, but it was difficult for him to have a sense of belonging to the Luo family. This was the key. Uncle, are you worried that the elders of the main branch won't agree? But we all know that as long as you make your attitude clear, those elders will definitely not refuse, Luo Xuanfu said. Don't say more. The position of the patriarch will be held by my grandfather in the future. Even if my grandfather can't do it, my uncle can. Lin Sun was resolute. What's more, for the Luo family, my surname is Lin after all. Seeing this, Luo Xuanfu and Luo Xuanjin couldn't help but sigh, but there was nothing they could do. It didn't take long for them to leave in a hurry. Watching them leave, Lin Sun smiled and came to the top of Jinjia Peak. He lay lazily on an ancient willow tree and squinted his eyes comfortably. In the distance, the starlight was floating, quiet, and peaceful. It was the first time for Lin Sun to be so relaxed for many years. And so relaxed. Chapter 2746. After a long time, Lin Sun stretched himself and thought of something. He took out the abyssal sword cauldron, and Luo Ling's figure appeared out of thin air. She had been suppressed in the abyssal sword cauldron since she was in the Kiliacosm battle domain. It was not until many years later that she finally had the opportunity to appear in the world. She was in a trance. Sometimes, the reason why a beauty was that even when she was in distress, her beauty was not inferior. Luo Ling was undoubtedly a great beauty. Her figure was slender and well-proportioned. Her appearance was extremely beautiful, and her temperament was like a lotus standing proudly in the world. She could be regarded as the best in every aspect. Even at this moment, her pretty face was pale and her eyebrows were full of exhaustion, but her beautiful temperament was still very eye-catching. She stood there for a moment, then suddenly opened her clear eyes and said, This is Jinjia Peak. It's the Luo family. Yes, it's the Luo family, but it's not the same as the Luo family you used to be, Lin Sun, who was lying on the willow tree, said indifferently. Luo Ling's pretty face changed slightly. What do you mean? Lin Sun's eyes flashed with a trace of trance. Before I suppressed you, you also asked me the same question. It doesn't matter if you have forgotten. I will let you recall it now. As he spoke, a jade slip appeared in his hand, and in the flowing light and shadow, a series of scenes emerged. It's your mother who you should blame. She personally caused such a bitter fruit. Your misfortune is also a part of this bitter fruit. In the scene, Luo Ling sneered with disdain and coldness in her eyes. There's also a kind of arrogance radiating from her bones. In the scene, Lin Sun stretched out his hand, lifted Luo Ling's chin, looked in her eyes, and said seriously, One day, when the Luo family is destroyed, I will also tell you that the one you should blame is not me, but the Luo family. This bitter fruit is caused by the Luo family, and your misfortune is deserved." Hearing this, Luo Ling sneered. "Do you think you could destroy the Luo family? You probably don't understand what an immortal imperial family is. Even if the Luo family has declined, it is not something that a bumpkin from the starry ancient road can shake." The scene ended here. On the other hand, Luo Ling, who'd witnessed all of this, seemed to have realized something, and her pretty face changed indeterminately. Lin Sun repeated what he had said in the past. "I once told you that when the Luo family was destroyed, I would let you see what you said today as a souvenir. Now that you've seen it, how do you feel?" Lin Sun looked at Luo Ling. Luo Ling was obviously unable to accept all of this. She said, "But in my opinion, Jinjia Peak and Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain still exist. The Luo family can't be destroyed by you." Lin Sun laughed. "You're right. Luo family hasn't been destroyed, nor has your branch. But just now, Luo Chong, Pei Ru, He Boyong, Yu Hua, and others have all died. Oh, by the way, your brother Luo Feng, your elders Luo Yinshan and Luo Yunhe have all been killed." Every time Lin Sun said a name, Luo Ling's heart trembled. In the end, her pretty face was full of anger and disbelief. "This is impossible, absolutely impossible. With just you alone, how could you?" Before Luo Ling finished her words, Lin Sun interrupted her. "You can go and have a look yourself. This is the Luo family you are most familiar with. I believe what you see can't be wrong." Luo Ling took a deep breath, turned around, and left. Lin Sun didn't stop her. Back then, he didn't kill Luo Ling because he wanted her to see with her own eyes that the power she relied on would be defeated. "You'd better not do anything impulsive. Otherwise, even if I don't take action, those angry clansmen of the main bloodline will not miss the opportunity to take revenge on you." Lin Sun reminded her indifferently. Luo Ling, who was far away, suddenly stiffened and then hurried away without saying a word. An hour later, Luo Ling, covered in blood and barely breathing, was carried back to Jinjia Peak by an old man of the main bloodline of the Luo family. Later, Lin Sun knew that Luo Ling couldn't accept all this after knowing the truth. She lost control of her emotions and made a scene in the Thunderbolt Mountain, wanting to see the big shots of the suppressed branches. Unexpectedly, she was severely beaten by the clansmen of the main bloodline, who had been suppressed by the branches for countless years, and almost killed Luo Ling at the last moment. She said that you brought her back to the Luo family, so I came to ask. If not, I will take her to the Thunderbolt Mountain. Considering that she didn't do anything to the clansmen of the main bloodline in the past years, we won't let her die. We will just imprison her in the Thunderbolt Mountain to reflect on her mistakes and punish her according to the criminal law of the Luo family later." The old man of the main bloodline of the Luo family explained. Lin Sun nodded to show that he understood and let Luo Ling stay. Seeing this, the old man of the main bloodline of the Luo family didn't say anything more and turned away. Looking at Luo Ling, who was lying on the ground with disheveled hair, Lin Sun sighed. "Now, do you finally believe me?" Luo Ling's body trembled violently, but she remained silent. Seeing this, Lin Sun also felt very bored and lost the idea of hitting Luo Ling. He said, "I won't kill you, but I won't forgive you like this. Everything will be handled according to the criminal law of the Luo family. Why don't you kill me? Don't you worry that if I am alive, I will take revenge on you in the future." Suddenly, Luo Ling raised her head and stared at Lin Sun with her red and bloodshot eyes. Lin Sun said, "You have no chance." It was a very calm and casual sentence, but Luo Ling's eyes gradually became dim and hollow. In the end, she couldn't help burying her head on the ground and crying bitterly. Lin Sun's eyes were indifferent and calm. There must be something hateful about a pitiful person. Luo Ling reaped what she sowed. In the end, Luo Ling, who seemed to have lost her soul, left Jinjia Peak alone and went to the Thunderbolt Mountain alone to accept the fate of being suppressed. Luo Ling's matter was just a small episode for Lin Sun, and it wouldn't make him have too many feelings and thoughts about it. He had more important things to do. Lin Sun turned his palm, and there was a book in his hand. This book was like jade or iron. It was warm and moist, and its surface was engraved with 4 immortal inscriptions belonging to the last era. Wuji Book. This was the supreme inheritance treasure of the sect, where Lu Boya belonged. Lin Sun also obtained this treasure from Luo Chang's broken spirit after killing him. I don't know what kind of mysterious inheritance is recorded in this book. Lin Sun raised his hand and was about to open it, but unexpectedly found that this book was full of a kind of magical prohibition power, which couldn't be broken by force at all. It seems that since Luo Chang got this treasure, he hasn't got the inheritance in it. Lin Sun thought. It was very unusual that such an immortal figure like Luo Chang couldn't crack the prohibition power on the Wuji Book for a long time. Lin Sun became serious and sensed it with his spiritual awareness. After a long time, in a trance, there appeared many magical prohibition formations in front of him. Every single formation actually surged into appearance like the image of a god. Every single image was like an emperor of the universe, and they were filled with boundlessly terrifying might and seemed to be inconceivable to the extreme. As soon as he sensed the 9 forbidden formations, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel amazed and shocked. It was amazing. Each kind of prohibition formation seemed to be elaborating the most primitive secret of the congenital prohibition formation. It was different from each other, which was beyond Lin Sun's imagination. After meditating for a long time and deducing the mysteries of the 9 prohibition formations, Lin Sun couldn't help but show a trace of surprise in his eyes. He had seen these 9 prohibition formations before, in the Mi Luo Wonderland. In order to enter the blessed place where Master Lu meditated, he had cracked the power of 9 prohibition formations. These 9 prohibition formations were named by numbers, namely the first sequence formation, the second sequence formation, the third sequence formation, until the 9th sequence formation. The 9 sequence formations obviously came from the same source as the 9 prohibition formations in front of him. The only difference was that the 9 sequence formations set by Master Lu were obviously much simpler than the 9 prohibition formations in front of him. There was no breath of divinity, nor was there a godlike phantom born in the prohibition formations. Yes, the Wuji Book is the inheritance of Master Lu's sect. The formations set by Master Lu naturally came from the Wuji Book. While thinking, Lin Sun had begun to deduce and cracked the first prohibition formation on the Wuji Book. Time flew. One day later, Lin Sun, who was deducing the prohibition formations, was awakened by a sound. Looking up, he saw a tall and stalwart figure in a black robe, with long hair and a handsome and resolute face, walking out of the hall in the distance. It was Luo Qingheng. Lin Sun immediately got up and said, "Uncle, you're awake?" The tall figure was obviously stunned, and then he showed excitement and asked tentatively, "Sun, it's you." Lin Sun nodded with a smile. Luo Qingheng couldn't help laughing. No wonder, no wonder. I was wondering why Pei Ru would be so kind to let me go. It turns out that you are here. There were emotions, excitement, joy, and relief in his voice. Lin Sun stepped forward and told him everything that happened in Luo family last night, especially when he learned that Pei Ru, He Boyong, and Yu Huai were killed. Luo Qingheng couldn't help praising Lin Sun 3 times in a row. When he learned that Luo Chong betrayed Luo family, Luo Qingheng's face became gloomy, and his eyes were full of anger and hatred. He said, "It's too easy to kill him." Luo Qingheng was obviously surprised when he learned that Lin Sun had suppressed the big shots of Luo family's branches in Mount Flying Thunder. He stared at Lin Sun and said, "Don't you hate them? Why don't you kill them all?" Lin Sun said, "I hate them, and I want to kill them. But they didn't kill the other clansmen of the main branch after they took charge of Luo family. It's their fault, but I won't go too far just because of this." Luo Qingheng was silent for a moment, and suddenly reached out and patted Lin Sun on the shoulder, saying, "That's what a man should do." Chapter 2747. It's really good. Suddenly, a low and weak voice sounded, accompanied by a rapid cough. Luo Qingheng's heart tightened. He looked up and saw a tall and thin figure coming out of the hall in the distance. It was Luo Xiao. Father. Luo Qingheng hurried to help his father. Luo Xiao pushed him away and scolded. I haven't become a waste yet. I don't need your help. As he said, he walked towards Lin Sun and looked him up and down. His expression was mixed with relief, excitement, and joy. Grandpa. Lin Sun saluted. Luo Xiao smiled and said, You look like your mother, but your temperament is not like her at all. Qingheng, what do you think? Luo Qingheng smiled and said, My sister is lively and intelligent. She is really different. Lin Sun was speechless. He couldn't imagine what his lively mother was like when she was young. Sun, if you don't mind, can you tell Grandpa about your past? Luo Xiao's eyes were kind and kind. The more she looked at Lin Sun, the more she liked him. This grandson of hers had the charm of a deep pool and a transcendent bearing. His spirit was restrained, just like a dragon hiding in the abyss. It was impossible to have such charm and temperament without the temperament of the world. Lin Sun would not refuse. He, Luo Xiao, and Luo Qingheng sat under the ancient willow tree and told them everything that had happened to him since he was young. His words were simple and to the point, but Luo Xiao and Luo Qingheng were still immersed in it. Sometimes they frowned, sometimes they were surprised, sometimes they were happy, and sometimes they were excited. It was as if they were listening to an unparalleled legendary story. It was filled with twists and turns and dangers, causing experienced people like Luo Xiao and Luo Qingheng to be unable to help but gasp with admiration. When they learned that Lin Sun killed all the way from the first heaven to the sixth heaven and wiped out all the hidden dangers in the Luo family last night, Luo Xiao and Luo Qingheng looked at each other with excitement. Sun, you have been wrong these years. Luo Xiao sighed. If it weren't for my incompetence, the traitor Luo Chong would not have usurped the position of patriarch, and your mother would not have been forced to escape from the Luo family. His voice was filled with deep remorse. Father, this is all in the past. Didn't you hear what this kid said? Little sister and brother-in-law are both in the ruins of fortune now. In the future, our family will definitely be able to reunite. Luo Qingheng consoled. Lin Sun also said with a smile, Grandpa, fortune and misfortune depend on each other. Speaking of which, if my mother hadn't gone to the starry ancient path, how could she have met my father and given birth to me? Luo Xiao was stunned, and then she laughed heartily. Forget it, forget it. Let's not talk about the past. Let all be in the past. That's right. Even if we cultivators possess extraordinary attainments, we're still humans in the end. Since we're humans, we can't continue living in hatred and self-blame. Luo Qingheng said, What's more, many of the thorny issues have been resolved. With Sun around, the Luo family will definitely get better and better. Luo Xiao nodded repeatedly and looked at Lin Sun, saying, Sun, you have awakened the third stage talent in your bloodline. Can you stay? As long as you stay, I guarantee that the Luo family will be yours in the future. Everything that the Luo family possesses will also be yours. These words were powerful and resonant. Lin Sun hesitated for a moment. After a while, he said, Grandpa, Uncle, I have a lot of hatred. If I stay in the Luo family will be implicated. What's more, my surname is Lin, not Luo. If I take over the position of patriarch, no one may object in a short time, but after a long time, it will inevitably cause some unnecessary criticism and trouble, so I hope you can understand. With that, he cupped his fists and saluted them one by one. Luo Xiao couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. Luo Qingheng said, I think Sun Er's consideration is right. I respect his decision, but Sun Er, you said something wrong before. Our Luo family is never afraid of any trouble. No matter how many enemies you have, the Luo family will stand behind you and face them together with you. He looked calm and serious. When you were in the seventh heaven, your great-grandfather had offended many forces, but when has our Luo family ever been afraid of them? Luo Xiao also nodded. Yes, Sun Er, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Your enemies are the enemies of our Luo family. Even if we are not their opponents now, even if we will suffer many unpredictable consequences. But there is nothing to be afraid of. Lin Sun's heart suddenly surged with indescribable warmth. This is family love. Even if you have enemies all over the world, they are willing to face them together and fight side by side with you. Grandpa, Uncle, you can rest assured that if the Luo family needs my help in the future, I will never stand by and do nothing. Lin Sun said seriously. Luo Xiao shook her head. You have helped the Luo family too much. If you need any help in the future, the Luo family will do everything to help you. Luo Qingheng laughed and said, Haha, we are a family anyway. Why do we need to be so clear? Suddenly, Lin Sun and Luo Xiao also laughed. This day, Lin Sun lived in Jinjia Peak, while Luo Xiao and Luo Qingheng left to take charge of the affairs of the Luo family. Although both of them were seriously injured, it didn't affect their movements. In any case, Luo Xiao is the eldest son of the Tongtian master, and Luo Qingheng is the eldest son of Luo Xiao. No matter which one of them is in charge of the Luo family, it is only right and proper. Lin Sun, on the other hand, had a leisurely life. In addition to meditating, he deduced the 9 mysterious forbidden arrays on the Wuji divine book every day. At the same time, the shocking change that happened to the Luo family that night couldn't be concealed at all. In just a few days, it had spread throughout the entire Tianshui divine land. The Luo family's patriarch Luo Chong was killed, and the branches of the Luo family, led by Luo Chong, were all suppressed. The main branch of the Luo family regained control of the Luo family. If it was just such news, it wouldn't have caused such a big sensation. After all, everyone knew that the Luo family was on the verge of collapse. In recent years, the territories controlled by the Luo family had been continuously devoured by the Yao family and Zhan family, the 2 immortal emperor clans. Under such circumstances, even if the news that the Luo family was expelled from the 6th heaven, it wouldn't be too surprising to the world. What really shocked the world was that Lin Sun, who had disappeared for several years, was actually involved in this shocking change related to the Luo family. Over the years, in the entire eternal world, who didn't know the fierce name of Ruthless Lin? Such a legendary disciple of Feng Siyuan, who had killed his way from the 1st heaven to the 5th heaven and offended countless forces of the immortal emperor clans, actually appeared in the 6th heaven after a few years. Who could remain indifferent? When people learned that it was with Lin Sun's strength that the main branch of the Luo family, led by Luo Chong, was overthrown, and the main branch of the Luo family regained control of the Luo family, the entire Tianshui divine land was in an uproar. Countless uproars and discussions broke out. No one thought that the successor of Feng Siyuan, who was wanted by many immortal emperor clans, could cause such a shocking change in the Luo family overnight. Even the news spread to the other divine lands of the 6th heaven at an astonishing speed. The reason was very simple. The shocking change that happened in the Luo family that night was too shocking. Anyone who heard it would be shocked. However, the news that Lin Sun killed He Boyong, Yu Huai, Pei Ru, Luo Chong, and other immortal characters by himself, as well as the relationship between Lin Sun and the Luo family, were not leaked. Because that night, all the members of the Luo family were arrested, and the people of the main branch of the Luo family, under the order of the elders, blocked all news early. After all, such a shocking change happened. If the outside world learned that Lin Sun has the talent of devouring abyss and is the great-grandson of the Tongtian Lord, it would definitely cause an unpredictable storm. It is even very likely to attract the attention of the great forces of the 8th heaven. Of course, the elders of the main branch of the Luo family also knew that such news was destined to be concealed for a while. As long as those hostile forces have the intention to investigate, Lin Sun's identity will be exposed sooner or later. Therefore, when the outside world was in an uproar, the Luo family also seized the time to take action. Under the instructions and orders of Luo Xiao and Luo Qingheng, the forces and clansmen of the Luo family distributed in the Tianshui divine country were recalled to Dragon's Pine Mountain. In other words, the Luo family took the initiative to abandon the territories and forces under their control and mobilized all the forces under their command to Dragon's Pine Mountain. In the eyes of the outside world, the Luo clan had no choice but to withdraw its forces due to the upheaval it had experienced, resulting in internal turmoil within the clan. For the Luo family, by doing so, the Luo family could concentrate all their forces to defend Dragon's Pine Mountain in order to deal with all possible changes. After all, the Yao family and the Ning family have been moving frequently in recent years to encroach on the territory of the Luo family. When they learned of the shocking change that happened inside the Luo family, how could they not take the opportunity to attack? More importantly, Lin Sun was still in the Luo family. If the immortal emperor clans that issued a warrant for Lin Sun all over the world learned of this news, how could they let it go? Under such circumstances, if the forces of the Luo family were scattered in the territories and cities under their control, they would be in danger again and again. Withdrawing into a defensive position might seem disgraceful, but to the Luo clan, it was the safest course of action. Otherwise, once a murderous disaster strikes, the Luo family will lose more than just some territory. It is very likely that they will no longer be able to stand in the sixth heaven. Simply put, the main branch of the Luo family regained control of the family, but did not change the Luo family situation, which had been weak for a long time. On the contrary, because of the shocking change that night, the Luo family situation became even more dangerous. And in this unstable and turbulent situation, the group arrived at Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain, covered in dust. Luo Xiao, who was now in charge of the Luo clan, led a group of elders from the main branch of the Luo clan to welcome them. When she saw the familiar thin figure, Luo Xiao could not help but be excited. "Elder Lu, you're finally back." Chapter 2748. After many years, Lu Boya led the descendants of the Mi Luo Wonderland back to the Luo family. The whole Luo family was excited. These days, with the turbulence of the outside world, the Luo family was also filled with a solemn and depressed atmosphere, because everyone knew that the situation of the Luo family was not optimistic after that night's shocking change. The arrival of Lu Boya and the descendants of the Mi Luo Wonderland undoubtedly brought great encouragement to the Luo family. Who didn't know that Lu Boya and the Lord of Tongtian were close friends? His attainments in Tao patterns were simply transcendent and unparalleled. After Lu Boya arrived, he ordered Suruogu to lead a group of descendants of the Mi Luo Wonderland to begin setting up a Tao pattern forbidden array in Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain. The Luo family also gave full cooperation. Jinjia Peak. Under the ancient willow tree, there was a bluestone table and a praying mat. Master Lu established the Mi Luo Wonderland and recruited disciples. Did you already expect that today's events would happen? Lin Sun personally poured tea for Lu Boya. Almost. Lu Boya nodded and said, "The internal troubles have been eradicated, but there are still external troubles. However, in a short time, the situation of the Luo family will not change." Lin Sun deeply agreed. Just in the territory of the Tianshui Divine Land, the two great immortal emperor clans, the Yao family and the Ling family, are eyeing them covetously. If you look at the entire sixth heaven, the enemies of the Luo family will not be indifferent if they know that he appeared in the Luo family. In such a situation, it is indeed impossible for the Luo family to completely reverse this embarrassing situation in a short time. Before leaving, I will help the Luo family fight. With my current strength, I may not be able to flatten them one by one, but it is not a big problem to block their attack. As long as they are scared, they will know that the Luo family is not something that can be easily swallowed. They will naturally not dare to attack us again. Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. There are many immortal emperor clans in the sixth heaven, but even the top immortal emperor clans have an extremely limited number of immortals. There are more than 10 people, and as few as 3 or 5. Under such circumstances, the power they can mobilize may be huge, but the real threat is only a handful of immortals. For Lin Sun, killing immortals is not difficult. Even if the other party could borrow the power of order, it was futile in front of the abyssal sword cauldron. Furthermore, among the elders of the main bloodline of the Luo family, there were two immortal realm experts. Although they had been suppressed and tortured for countless years, they were still immortal realm experts. Now, with the help of Master Lu and the descendants of the Mi Luo Grotto Heaven, it was not a difficult task to protect the Luo family. Lu Boya said gratifyingly, "I'm relieved that you are willing to fight for the Luo clan." Lin Sun said with a smile, "Master Lu, I won't blame the whole Luo family for the crimes committed by the branch of Luo family. I'm clear about this. What's more, it's also because of my appearance that those enemies have their eyes on Luo family. How can I stand by and do nothing?" As he spoke, he had an idea and handed a bronze box to Lu Boya. "Master Lu, there's order energy inside. Although I've subdued it, I can't refine it completely. I have no choice but to ask for your help." Lu Boya opened the bronze box and looked inside. He couldn't help but be moved. "Heaven-level order?" Lin Sun said, "Yes, this order is related to the power of curses. I subdued it in a place called the Fallen God Ridge. If it is refined and placed in the Luo family, I believe it will play an unpredictable role. Heaven-level order. With such power, it's enough to change the fate of any immortal imperial family in the sixth heaven. It's enough to let them move to the seventh heaven and take root. Just like a few years ago, after the Zhu family seized a heaven-level order, their reputation and status were completely different. Now, they're planning to go to the seventh heaven to take root. The reason is that looking at the entire sixth heaven, no immortal imperial family can control the heaven-level order. All of them are earth-level orders. If the Luo family has a heaven-level order, it's equivalent to having a powerful weapon. In the future, they may have the hope of returning to the seventh heaven. Lu Boya naturally knows the value of the heaven-level order. Just like in the past years, when he subdued the forbidden order in the mysterious forbidden domain of the Chaos Demon Sea, didn't he also think about subduing the spirit of order of the forbidden order? If that's the case, the dangers and difficulties encountered by the Luo family will be easily solved, and they won't have to worry about not being able to rise again. It's really a heaven-level order, and it's a fourth-level cursed order. Lu Boya's eyes flickered for a while, and his heart was in turmoil. He didn't expect that Lin Sun would take out such an extraordinary power so casually. After a while, Lu Boya couldn't help but ask, "Do you really plan to leave this power in the Luo family? This treasure is too precious. If it's obtained by an immortal, it's enough to open a door in the seventh heaven and establish an immortal force of their own." Because it's too precious, Lu Boya couldn't help but feel a little incredulous at this moment. "As long as it can help my grandfather and uncle, it's enough," Lin Sun said casually. "In the future, when I bring my parents back from the ruins of fortune, my mother can also go back to the Luo family to have a look. After all, this is her home." Lu Boya stared at Lin Sun for a while, then confirmed that Lin Sun really intends to do this. For a time, his heart was filled with emotion. This kid's boldness and breadth of mind were in no way inferior to his great-grandfather. "Okay, I'll help you refine this cursed order," Lu Boya readily agreed. "However, I'm afraid it'll take some time before I can really borrow this power." "Well, I'll try to refine it within half a year." Lin Sun nodded and said, "Master Lu, don't tell others about this for the time being, so as not to leak the news." Lu Boya was startled, and his eyes suddenly became strange. He said, "Why do I feel that you are worried that those foreign enemies won't come?" Lin Sun laughed. "I have nothing to do anyway. Since I don't have the ability to flatten them one by one, it's not bad to teach them a lesson first." Lu Boya was speechless. Time passed day by day. The atmosphere of the Luo family was very calm, but under this calm, Luo Xiao and other elders of the Luo family had been preparing. All the affairs of the entire clan were carried out in an intense and orderly manner. The descendants of the Mi Luo Wonderland, headed by Su Ruogu, were also very busy. Under the instigation and guidance of Lu Boya, they set up a vast and terrifying forbidden formation inside and outside Dragon's Pine Mountain. This restriction formation was formed from 108 Tao marking talisman diagrams, and every single talisman diagram contained 109,000 restriction Tao markings. When they were formed together, it was like 108 worlds of restrictions. According to Liu Boya's estimation, if the power of this formation was enough to easily kill an Ancestor Realm expert under full operation, even if an immortal of Heaven Longevity Realm was trapped in it, he couldn't get out of it in a short time. This formation was called Sky Slaughter. In order to set up this formation, the Luo family almost emptied their family property, and all kinds of divine and spiritual materials were thrown into it. Now, more than half of it had been set up, and it wouldn't take long to completely take shape. When the whole Luo family was busy, Lin Sun was the most leisurely one. He had been staying in Jinjia Peak, meditating and comprehending the 9 forbidden formations of the Wuji book. His life was peaceful and fulfilling. Recently, as the hatred between him and the branch of the Luo family was ended, it was like breaking a shackle that had been entangled in his heart for many years, which made Lin Sun's state of mind unprecedentedly relaxed. Especially when he was cultivating, Lin Sun occasionally captured many mysterious and indescribable insights, but when he carefully tasted them, there was no trace of them. It was like an inexplicable whim, or a trace of mystery that flashed by inadvertently. Although he hadn't really understood the mystery, these subtle changes still made Lin Sun excited. He knew that this was an opportunity related to breaking through the immortal realm. In the past, when he was cultivating, there was no such mysterious feeling, but now it appeared. Did this mean that the hope of breaking through the realm had appeared? Even if he hadn't really grasped this mysterious opportunity, even if there was only a very faint hope of breaking through, it still brought great encouragement to Lin Sun. For a peerless great emperor like him, the difficulty he encountered to break through the immortal realm was destined to be far greater than that of other people in the same realm. After all, since he started cultivating, he had been pursuing the path of the only one in the world. The more it was so, the more unusual his path of breaking through the realm was. The dangers and difficulties he would face were destined to be beyond the imagination of others. Fortunately, Lin Sun had now felt the mystery of breaking through the realm and saw hope. One morning, at the break of dawn, Gale City, which was 8,000 miles away from Dragon Pine Mountain, was deserted and bleak. The bustling streets in the past were now empty. Recently, the divine land of Tianshui was in turmoil and undercurrents were surging. The news that the Luo family was about to be exterminated was widely spread almost everywhere. As a result, Gale City, which was the closest city to the Luo family, became the most dangerous area in the eyes of people. The people who originally lived in the city had gradually evacuated from the city for fear that when the Luo family was in trouble, the disaster would also affect Gale City. Today, such a prosperous place like Gale City had become an empty city. When the light of dawn shone on the deserted Gale City, in the void far away, a large team swept over like a black cloud that blotted out the sky. Rumble. The conveyance light was like rain, and the light of treasures was dazzling. When this vast and mighty group appeared in the sky above Gale City, the sky seemed as if it was collapsing. It was unable to endure such might, and it emitted a rumbling and mournful sound. Especially the 4 people at the front, each of them exuded an immortal aura. Their power was so strong that it penetrated the sky and the earth, like 4 supreme rulers walking side by side. Behind them were a group of people in the Ancestor Realm. There were men and women, old and young, densely packed together, and there were hundreds of them. P.S. There will be more updates at the end of the month. Literature Library. Chapter 2749. 4 immortal existences and hundreds of Emperor ancestors. Such a team can move unhindered in the 6th heaven. At this time, they appeared in the sky above the great Gale City. If there were cultivators from the Tianshui divine country here, they would definitely recognize that this team is from the Yao family and Ling family. Yao, Ling, Luo. These are the 3 great immortal emperor clans of the Tianshui divine country. Among them, The Yao family and the Ling family are neck and neck. Only the Luo family is weak. Such a big city, but it's empty. How miserable the situation of the Luo family is. A man wearing a bright red battle robe and carrying a giant sword on his back said indifferently, Nirvana, God, realm immortal, Yao Tianan. Legend has it that he has lived for 30,000 years and fought countless battles. His swordsmanship is completely honed from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. His combat power can be regarded as tyrannical among the same realm. In fact, in the entire sixth heaven, the existence of the Nirvana God realm is extremely rare. Even in the top undying forces in this world, there are at most 2 or 3 Nirvana God realm powerhouses. This proves that in the eyes of the world, the Luo family can't escape this disaster. That's why they abandoned the city. In other words, even the ordinary people are no longer optimistic about the Luo family. The other elder in dark green robes spoke slowly. Faint black divine chains of laws coiled around his body, and they transformed into the phenomenon of demons dancing wildly. It was terrifying and terrifying. Heavenly longevity, realm immortal, Ling Qingwu. In the territory of the Tianshui divine country, in terms of combat power, he is ranked in the top 30 of the heavenly longevity realm. This ranking doesn't seem high, but one should know that there are a total of 24 immortal emperor clans in the sixth heaven, and each of them has a group of immortal existences. Being able to rank in the top 30 of the heavenly longevity realm in this world is already amazing. Although the Luo family has been weak for a long time, they still have a certain foundation. This time, we don't need to destroy them, but at least we need to expel them from the Tianshui divine country. A woman with snow-white hair and a glazed lantern in her hand spoke coldly. Heavenly longevity realm immortal, Yao Qinglu. Don't be careless. Be careful of the Luo family's desperate counterattack. On the other side, a man carrying a blood-colored halberd and covered in black armor said solemnly. This was also a heaven longevity, realm undying, Ling Xuan. As they conversed, they had already led hundreds of emperor ancestors across thousands of miles and arrived in front of Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain. Rumble. As soon as they arrived, the auras of Yao Tianhan, Yao Qinglu, Ling Qingwu, and Ling Xuan engulfed the area like a storm. The space nearby trembled and collapsed, sending sand and pebbles flying. The terrifying killing intent caused the clouds in all directions to collapse. Listen up, people of the Luo family. Hand over the power of order and leave Dragon's Pine, Sacred Mountain. Otherwise, we will flatten this place today and eliminate the root of the problem. The leading Nirvana god, Yao Tianhan, said calmly, Flatten this place and pull up the weeds by the roots. Flatten this place and pull up the weeds by the roots. These words reverberated through the heavens and the earth like a thunderclap from the 9 heavens. It surged towards the surroundings, and it shook the heavens and the earth to the point of shaking while space fell into disorder. The Yao and Ling families are finally here. Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain. In the Luo clan, all the clansmen stopped what they were doing. When they heard the voice coming from outside, their expressions changed. A tense atmosphere of restlessness and uneasiness filled the air. Even if they had expected such a calamity to come, when it really happened, they still couldn't help but feel depressed and nervous. Because in this battle, once the Luo family loses, there will only be 2 outcomes. Either they will be annihilated, or they will be expelled from the 6th heaven. A long time ago, the Luo family, which was expelled from the 7th heaven, has already experienced similar tragedies. How could they not know the seriousness of the consequences? Even if they win, the situation of the Luo family will not change much, because more enemies will come to them one after another. Such a situation is very frustrating, and it is easy to make people pessimistic and desperate. The main hall of the Luo family. A group of big shots gathered. Luo Xiao, who was sitting on a main seat, was keenly aware that not to mention the ordinary family members, even the elders of the Luo family present were filled with gloominess and worry. Luo Xiao didn't comfort them. nor did he encourage their morale. He knew that it was impossible to completely remove the shadow and hesitation shrouding the hearts of the Luo family members with just a few words. Only a big victory can stabilize the morale of the Luo family. Old Lu, can the sky slaughtering formation be operated? Luo Xiao asked. Lu Boya nodded indifferently. Maybe it can't kill the heavenly longevity realm, but it's easy to kill the ancestor realm. Immediately, he said, however, since this is the first calamity our Luo family faces, we can't be so passive. We must win this battle, and we must win beautifully. Everyone was stunned. In such a situation, it would not be easy to win, let alone win beautifully. Only Luo Xiao knew what was going on and said, Old Lu is right. At this moment, Lin Sun's tall and aloof figure appeared outside the hall and said, Master Lu, is it time to kill the enemy? Master Lu stood up and said with a smile, Luo Xiao Luo Yong, let's go. Immediately, two figures stood up. One was thin and tall with a thin face. The other was a young man, wearing a purple robe, with eyes as bright as the sun. They were the only two immortals in the Luo family, Luo Xiao and Luo Yong. Luo Xiao, in particular, was an extremely experienced and powerful figure of the same generation as the master of Tong Tian, possessing the terrifying cultivation of the Nirvana realm. What about us? Seeing that they were about to leave, an important figure couldn't help asking. Luo Xiao said, We'll stay in the clan and wait for news. Everyone was astounded, surprised, and doubtful. Patriarch, isn't this too rash? If old Lu and the others are in danger, our Luo family will no longer have a backbone. Without a leader, won't we be at the mercy of others? Yes. The others also expressed their concern. Luo Zhao's expression was calm as she said, I think the Luo clan will definitely win this battle. While the discussion was going on, Lin Sun, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, and Luo Yong disappeared from the hall. Outside Dragon's Pine Mountain, the air was filled with a thick murderous aura, and the sky was dark. The four immortals led by Yao Tianhan, Yao Qinglu, Ling Qingwu, and Ling Xuan all looked very relaxed and calm. If the Luo family still refuses to come out in 15 minutes, we'll make our move, Yao Tianhan said calmly, his bright red battle robe flapping in the wind. This Dragon's Pine Mountain is covered with an extremely strong restrictive formation. It may not be a threat to us, but it's a threat to progenitors. If we want to kill our way in, we'll have to break the formation first. Ling Qingwu said in a low voice. Hum. A deep and strange hum sounded. A tiny hammer that burned with flames floated up into appearance at the center of Yao Qinglu's palm. It was completely scarlet red like jade, and it emanated strands of scorching and terrifying aura of order. With the power of this hammer, we can easily break those restrictive formations. Yao Qinglu's eyes were cold, her snow-white hair fluttering. Restriction breaking hammer. Tempered by the Yao family's gold flame order, it specialized in restraining various restrictive powers. Clearly, they had made ample preparations to attack the Luo family. Not bad, not bad. With this hammer, killing our way into Dragon's Pine Mountain won't be difficult. Ling Qingwu smiled. As for the Luo family's order, leave it to me, Yao Tianhan said. As far as I know, your Ling family's heavy profound order is stronger than the Luo family's purple thunder order. Ling Qingwu said modestly, Taoist brother, you flatter me. If you really want to compare, your Yao family's gold flame order is also not simple. Everyone, don't overlook that evil Lin Sun. Yao Qinglu suddenly said, It's because he entered the Luo family that the branch of the Luo family suffered heavy losses, allowing the main branch to regain power. This proves that his relationship with the main branch of the Luo family is not simple. In the entire eternal world, who doesn't know that he is wanted by many immortal emperor clans? In such a situation, the Luo family still dared to let him stay in the clan. There must be some secret behind it. The others narrowed their eyes and nodded. Lin Sun, a great ancestor that no immortal emperor can ignore. But he is still great ancestor. Back in the fifth heaven, he survived not because of his combat power, but because he hid like a mouse. Ling Xuan said solemnly, "This time, if he dares to show himself, we will kill him like killing a chicken." At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded. "How arrogant! Master Lu, I'll deal with him later." "All right." Along with the voice, Lin Sun, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, and Luo Yong appeared in front of Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain. Whoosh! In an instant, Yao Tianhan, the other immortal emperor clans, and the hundreds of progenitors all looked over and locked onto Lin Sun's group. When they confirmed that it was only Lin Sun's group, they couldn't help but feel surprised. 3 immortal emperor clans, 1 great ancestor. Does the Luo family plan to send out their strongest force to fight to the death? Yao Tianhan's eyes were playful. This was indeed very abnormal. The battle hadn't even begun, but the other party had already sent out their strongest force. It gave people the feeling that they already knew they couldn't stop their attack, so they had no choice but to reveal their biggest trump card. It's not much different from what we know. 3 immortal emperors, 2 of which have been suppressed for countless years. Their vitality is greatly damaged. They aren't much of a threat. Ling Qingwu's expression was indifferent. Before they took action, they had already inquired about the 2 immortal emperors in the main branch of the Luo family. However, both of them had been suppressed for countless years, so they weren't much of a threat. The only thing that surprised them was the addition of Lu Boya. However, it was just 1 more immortal emperor. For them, it wouldn't affect the overall situation. "You are Lin Sun, the descendant of Fong Siyuan. You are the one who said you wanted to finish me off?" Ling Xuan's gaze was fixed on Lin Sun. He was covered in black armor, holding a blood-red halberd in his hand. His rough and cold face was full of disdain and killing intent. Chapter 2750. That's right. Lin Sun nodded calmly. Ling Xuan grinned, revealing his white teeth. "Come, I'm right here. Let's see how you'll deal with me." Emperor Ancestor Zhu Lai dared to provoke him like this. It felt like an ant provoking a giant dragon in the sky. Many ancestor realm figures of the Yao and Ling families couldn't help but laugh with ridicule in their eyes. Previously, they thought that Lin Sun, who had killed his way from the first heaven to the fifth heaven and now appeared in the Luo family, was a heaven-defying figure. But now it seemed that he was too arrogant and ignorant. Lu Boya and the others looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh, feeling pity for Ling Xuan. If he knew that Luo Yunshan and Luo Yunhe were killed by Lin Sun, would he dare to despise Lin Sun like this? "I'll deal with Yao Tianan." Luo Xiao stepped out, and light purple immortal laws emerged from his thin figure, lingering into a divine ring and circulating around him. Vaguely, there seemed to be a divine phantom sitting in the divine ring. Immortal divine ring. This was the unique symbol of the Nirvana God realm. Countless years of suppression and torture have greatly damaged your vitality, Luo Xiao. Now you dare to provoke me shamelessly? How ridiculous! Opposite him, Yao Tianhan snorted coldly, and the giant sword on his back fell into his hand with a clang. His blood-red robe fluttered, and an immortal divine ring condensed from the power of laws appeared. It burned fiercely like fire, as if it wanted to incinerate the sky. Whether it's ridiculous or not, we'll know later. Luo Xiao's eyes were indifferent. "Yao Qinglu, do you dare to fight?" Luo Yong, who looked like a young man with eyes as bright as the sun, said, his eyes fixed on Yao Qinglu in the distance. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Yao Qinglu put away the hammer and held the glass lantern in her hand. "It seems that only I can deal with you." Lu Boya folded his hands in his sleeves and looked at Ling Qingwu. "Lu Boya, I heard that you've suffered an injury to your Grand Dao, and you're unable to utilize your full strength. Otherwise, you'll definitely suffer a backlash. Under such circumstances, I'm truly curious. What will you use to fight me?" Ling Qingwu wore a dark green robe while his entire body was coiled by strands of black, divine chains of the laws, and it formed the phenomenon of a group of devils dancing about in a frenzy. It was a terrifying and awe-inspiring sight. Lu Boya smiled and said, "Curiosity can kill." As soon as he finished speaking, boom! As he took a step forward, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. Countless dazzling Tao patterns emerged and transformed into a lightning forbidden formation in the void, enveloping the area. When looked at from afar, it was simply like the arrival of the lightning tribulation of the end of the world. Go! Killing intent surged in Ling Qingwu's eyes. With a flip of his palm, a black saber soared into the sky, dragging a surging rain of eternal light behind it as it tore through the sky and slashed down furiously. Rumble! The forbidden lightning formation and the battle blade collided. The heavens and the earth shook, and a terrifying scene of destruction appeared. The nearby void cracked and collapsed. The hundreds of imperial ancestors of the Yao family and the Ling family immediately retreated far away. When they saw this scene from afar, they couldn't help but gasp. This was a battle between immortals, not to mention interfering. Even if they were affected by it, they were likely to be severely injured. Lin Sun didn't retreat. He could still withstand the aftermath of the battle. Originally, he was a little worried about Master Lu, who was entangled by the 5 decay Tao. But when he saw Master Lu's demeanor in battle, the worry in his heart was replaced by a sense of amazement. Master Lu condensed all kinds of mysterious forbidden formations between his hands and feet, turning them into wind and thunder, water and fire, Tao sounds, divine swords, and battle blades. Every strike was accompanied by the qi of immortality, mysterious, ever-changing, and extremely powerful. For a moment, Ling Qingwu seemed to be surrounded by layers of forbidden formations. He was dwarfed. However, Ling Qingwu was an immortal after all. With a wave of his battle blade, he broke the wind and thunder, destroyed the 5 elements, and opened the yin and yang. His divine power was so strong that he wasn't overwhelmed in one fell swoop. Kill! Amidst the earth-shattering roar, Yao Tianhan moved. The flame-like, immortal divine ring hovered around him. Like the legendary fire god, he moved the void and attacked Luo Xiao. Luo Xiao controlled the purple thunder principle. He didn't dodge, but met Yao Tianhan head-on. At the same time, Luo Yong and Yao Qinglu were fighting. Luo Yong's Tao weapon was a black spear. It was fierce and domineering, piercing the sky. Every strike had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. It was extremely swift and fierce. That casual strike of his was enough to easily penetrate through any ancestor realm figure. Compared to this, Yao Qinglu's method of battle was extremely special. The lantern in her hand fluttered as numerous golden petals flew out from it. They seemed as if they were made from divine metal, and they were branded with peerlessly sharp eternal laws. As the petals fluttered all over the sky, the nearby void was silently cut open like a piece of paper, long and narrow cracks. That kind of fierce killing force was extremely beautiful and extremely dangerous. Although Luo Yong's black spear was domineering and swift, it couldn't break the attack of the golden petals for a while. Rumble. The world was in chaos, and the sky seemed to be collapsing. The terrifying immortal Tao light spread, and the mountains and rivers within 1,000 miles were instantly turned into ruins, devoid of life. The restrictive power around Dragon Spine Divine Mountain was completely activated at this moment. Light flowed, blocking the impact of the battle. Luo Xiao, Luo Qingheng, and the other important figures of the Luo family were watching this battle. Everyone's expression was different. Some were nervous, some were worried, some were excited, and some were shocked. Luo Xuanfu, Luo Xuanjin, and the other members of the Luo family were also watching. However, with their cultivation, they couldn't see any clues at all. This was because this was a battle at the immortal level. It had long exceeded the scope of what they could observe and understand. To them, this was like the battle of the gods in the 9 heavens. They could easily destroy the stars and the moon and turn the universe upside down. But even so, everyone was still extremely nervous and perturbed. This was because everyone knew that if they won this battle, the Luo family situation might not change much. However, if they lost, the Luo family would face the danger of being exterminated. The hundreds of imperial ancestors from the Yao family and the Ling family were also watching. They retreated far away and watched from afar. Their expressions were full of shock. A battle between immortal-level experts, even in the sixth heaven, was extremely rare. And a chaotic battle between immortal-level experts like this was even rarer. This also brought a great impact and shock to those immortal ancestors. Perhaps they could look down on all existences under the Emperor realm, but in front of the immortal-level experts, they could only look up in awe. Little thing, why don't you come and deal with me? Are you afraid? Weren't you very arrogant just now? On the battlefield, Ling Xuehen's eyes were fixed on Lin Sun, and her cold and rough cheeks were full of contempt. Isn't it good to be alive? Why are you in such a hurry to die? Lin Sun sighed softly. Buzz. The profound sword cauldron swept out, and hundreds of millions of rays of light appeared. Together with Lin Sun, it moved the void and suppressed Ling Xuehen. This scene was seen by everyone. Everyone in the Luo family was very excited because in the shocking change that happened in the Luo family that night, Lin Sun had killed Luo Chong, He Boyong, Yu Huai, Peiru, and other immortal-level experts by himself. Even though Lin Sun didn't have the help of the Sword of Order now, who didn't know that even the two immortal-level experts, Luo Yunshan and Luo Yunhe, died in Lin Sun's hands? Therefore, they didn't doubt that Lin Sun was not Ling Xuen's opponent at all. However, to the Yao family and the Ling family emperor ancestors, Lin Sun's attack at this moment was simply crazy. He was like a moth flying into a flame. Emperor ancestor Zhu Lai really dared to challenge an immortal-level expert? He was obviously crazy. Ling Xuen was also very surprised. Previously, he thought that Lin Sun was bluffing. Who would have thought that Lin Sun really dared to make a move? Then dense killing intent flashed in his eyes, under the watchful eyes of everyone. If he didn't kill this ant who kept provoking him, where would his face as an immortal-level expert be? Die! The black armor on Ling Xuehen's body clanged, and terrifying black Law Dao light rose. As he slapped out his palm, boom! The boundless palm power turned into sun wheels, crushing the sky and crushing the void. The power was so strong that it made those emperor ancestors who were watching feel cold. Lin Sun didn't dodge, but used the profound sword cauldron to meet the attack head-on. Amidst the sound of collision that shook the heavens and the earth, his figure staggered, and he suddenly retreated over 10 steps while the space beneath his feet rumbled and collapsed. It could be imagined how powerful the power of Ling Xuen's palm was. However, this scene made all the onlookers stunned. He blocked it. This was a head-on battle, and there was no luck. But in this head-on collision, Lin Sun was not defeated, nor was he injured. A trace of astonishment also flashed across Ling Xuehen's eyes. Immediately, her expression sunk. She stepped forward and shook the blood-colored halberd in her hand. It drew out a demonic and dazzling sharp bloodlight that chopped over. Lin Sun's expression was neither sad nor happy. He was as calm as an ancient well and activated his full combat power to meet the halberd head-on. Boom! The profound sword cauldron and the blood-red halberd collided, and the two fought fiercely. Terrifying sword chi, sharpness, and Dao light raged and spread. Everyone could clearly see that Lin Sun was suppressed from the beginning by Ling Xuehen's immortal-level power. But what was incredible was that even if Lin Sun was at a disadvantage, he still had the power to resist and counterattack, and repeatedly turn danger into safety. This shocked everyone, and their expressions were full of shock. Emperor Ancestor Zhu Yin, without using any trump cards, could actually fight against an immortal-level figure with his cultivation. This was simply a miracle, and it was enough to shock the ages. As the battle continued, Ling Xuehen's old face became more and more gloomy. He was shocked and angry. For him, even if he had the upper hand now, it was disgraceful and shameful. After all, he was in the immortal heaven life realm, and his opponent was Emperor Ancestor Zhu Yin. Under the situation of a big realm difference, he couldn't kill his opponent in a short time. This was indeed too shameful. Little thing, I'd like to see how long you can hold on. Ling Xuehen's eyes were full of killing intent, and his power became more and more terrifying. The blood-red halberd hummed, and the sound resounded through the world. He still had some reservations before, but now he couldn't care so much. P.S. 31 good burst, that is, the day after tomorrow. Chapter 2751. In fact, it was not only Lin who was fighting fiercely. In other areas, the battle between Luo Xiao and Yao Tianhan, the battle between Luo Yong and Yao Qinglu, and the battle between Lu Boya and Ling Qingwu were equally intense. In this world, except for Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain, which was covered by the power of the restrictive formation, everywhere else was collapsing and destroyed. The mountains and rivers withered, and there was no vitality left. However, if one observed carefully, it was not difficult to find that whether it was Luo Xiao, Luo Yong, or Lu Boya, they were gradually at a disadvantage as the battle continued. This caused the hearts of the important figures of the Luo clan to tighten, and their expressions changed constantly. They all knew the reason. The two old men, Luo Xiao and Luo Yong, had been suppressed and imprisoned for countless years. Their primordial qi was greatly weakened, and the combat prowess they could bring out was far from their peak. As for Lu Boya, the five blight, Tao tribulation remained in his body. He did not dare to use his full strength at all. Otherwise, he would definitely suffer a backlash. As for Lin, after seeing the scenes of him killing Luo Chong, Pei Ru, and the other undying existences, when they saw his current performance, they couldn't help but feel a great disparity. How could this be? This was what many people were wondering about. On the other side, the ancestor realm figures of the Yao and Ling clans were extremely excited instead, and they similarly took in the current situation of the battle. To them, as long as they won this battle, the Luo family would lose their biggest support. By then, Dragon's Pine Mountain would no longer be a threat and would be easily trampled. Rumble. The battle was getting more and more intense. Master Lu, Lin's son called out. Subsequently, Lu Boya tore through the sky and arrived, and he seemed to want to provide support. Humph, you can't even protect yourself, yet you still want to save that little thing. How laughable. Ling Qingwu sneered and chased after him. Almost at the same time, Luo Xiao, who was fighting with Yao Tianhan, and Luo Yong, who was fighting with Yao Qinglu, retreated as if they had a tacit understanding. This change surprised Yao Tianhan, Yao Qinglu, and the others. They were puzzled why these old fellows from the Luo family would care so much about the life and death of a core disciple. But they didn't have time to think about it, and continued to chase after him. For a moment, the scene changed from fighting for themselves to a confrontation between the two camps. This change surprised the big shots of the Luo family. What was going on? Could it be that Lin couldn't hold on any longer? Boom! Right at this moment, a strand of violet-colored energy of the Order of Lightning gushed into appearance in the hands of Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, and Luo Yong, and they were suffused with a terrifying aura. Is he going all out? Unfortunately, even the power of order can't save you. Yao Tian snorted coldly. The power of order? They had it too. A talisman appeared above his head. The Yao family's golden flame's power of order surged out and merged into the Dao tool in his hand. At the same time, the Dao weapons in the hands of Yao Qinglu, Ling Qingwu, and Ling Xuan also emitted the power of order. Witnessing this scene, be it friend or foe, the spectators' hearts were in their throats. When they were about to compete with the power of order, it meant that the outcome of the battle had already been decided. Kill! Yao Tianhan and the others attacked without hesitation. The terrifying power of order, mixed with the law of immortality, was simply about to throw the universe into chaos and crush this heaven realm. The Luo clan spectators couldn't help but turn pale with fright. Lu Boya and the others naturally wouldn't resign themselves to death. However, before they could utilize the power of order, a sword cauldron rushed forward and attacked first. This was naturally Lin Sun's abyssal sword cauldron. However, at this moment, an inconceivable change occurred. Hum, accompanied by a clear hum that shook the heavens and the earth. The Nirvana order in the shape of a lotus flower appeared out of nowhere. An obscure and mysterious rain of light fell down. Yao Tianhan and the others felt the Tao tools in their hands suddenly stiffen. The power of order that enveloped them seemed to be devoured and instantly disintegrated. Their expressions immediately changed as they were caught unprepared by this strange scene. What's going on? Ever since they started cultivating, they had never encountered such a situation. This was too sudden, and it completely overturned their imagination. At the same time, Lu Boya and the others who had been waiting for this moment brazenly attacked. Boom! The Tao sword in Luo Xiu's hand easily broke through Yao Tianhan's defenses. The power of purple lightning that covered the sword exploded, shattering half of Yao Tianhan's body. Blood splattered everywhere. Puffed. The black spear that Luo Yong wielded ruthlessly pierced through Yao Qinglu's slender body and lifted her up. The latter let out a shrill cry of pain. On the other side, Ling Qingwu was directly enveloped by a sword formation filled with the power of order. Unparalleled sword qi wreaked havoc, causing his entire body to be sliced into pieces. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. As for Ling Xuan, he was attacked by a dozen or so flames of order that Lin Sun had prepared beforehand. His skin and flesh split open, and his roars shook the heavens. From the moment Yao Tianhan and the others attacked, to the Nirvana order, to the brazen attack of Lu Boya and the others, this series of events happened at the same time. It was unbelievably fast. By the time people reacted, Yao Tianhan, Yao Qinglu, Ling Qingwu, and Ling Xuan, the four immortal figures, had already suffered terrible injuries. Open. Seeing that Yao Tianhan and the others were about to meet with disaster, Yao Tianhan suddenly let out a deafening roar at this critical moment. A secret seal suddenly appeared in front of him. The secret seal was like fire. It suddenly exploded in the void, producing a terrifying torrent of flames. Lu Boya and the others immediately dodged with Lin Sun. When the smoke and dust dissipated in the distant void, Yao Tianhan's clothes were ragged and his hair disheveled. Half of his body was damaged and blood was flowing out. There was a bloody crack in Yao Qinglu's chest and abdomen, revealing her white bones. It was a ghastly sight. Ling Qingwu's body had already been shredded by the boundless sword formation. He had just recovered, but his face was extremely pale and transparent. Ling Xuan was the most miserable. His skin and flesh were split open, and his body was charred black like a piece of charcoal. Seeing this scene, an indescribable shock spread through the hearts of every spectator. Their hands and feet were cold, and their eyes were filled with horror. How could this be? Why was it that Yao Tianhan and the others were the ones to suffer heavy injuries after the fierce battle? In the Luo family of Dragon's Pine God Mountain, the Luo clansmen were also dumbfounded, almost unable to believe their eyes. Only Luo Xiao was the calmest. This was the strategy that Lin Sun and Lu Boya had planned in advance. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Yao Tianhan and the others must have made sufficient preparations. If they wanted to win this battle, and win it beautifully, they had to catch them off guard. Lin Sun's abyssal sword cauldron had the power to restrain the power of order. It was precisely because of this that Yao Tianhan and the others were seriously injured. Otherwise, the Luo family would not have much chance of winning in a head-on clash. After all, Luo Xiu and Luo Yong were seriously injured, and Lu Boya was trapped by the 5 signs of decay. In a head-on clash, they were bound to be in a disadvantageous position. It's all your fault, you little bastard. In the distance, Yao Tianhan's voice was cold and filled with undisguised hatred. He glared at Lin Sun, wishing he could skin him alive. No wonder he could kill his way from the first heaven to the 5th. It turns out that he has a treasure that can easily destroy the power of order. Yao Qinglu, Ling Qingwu, Ling Xuan, and the others' expressions were especially gloomy and ugly. If they had not used all their strength to resist and resolve that attack just now, they would have almost lost their lives. Even though they had escaped, they were already injured. The Yao and Ling family emperors were also bewildered. No one had expected that in such a terrifying battle, Lin Sun, the Zhu Shui emperor, had played an invaluable role. This was too inconceivable. It's too late to understand now, Lin Sun said indifferently. At this moment, he had become the focus of everyone's attention on the battlefield. Ridiculous. Your Luo family situation hasn't changed at all. We didn't take you down this time, but next time, will you be as lucky as today? Yao Tianhan said coldly. He had made a prompt decision to retreat. Right now, he and the other three immortals were all seriously injured. If they continued to fight, they were doomed to die. As for whether it was embarrassing to return in defeat, he didn't care at all. The most important thing now was to survive. Go! He turned to lead everyone to retreat. Since you're here, can you still leave? Lin Sun's indifferent voice sounded. At this moment, the heavens and earth were strangely silent. The figures of Yao Tianhan and the other three immortals also showed a trace of sluggishness, as if they were frozen for a moment. It was also at this moment, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, Luo Yong, and Lin Sun teleported away, appearing in front of Yao Tianhan and the others. Pooh! 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 Yao Tianhan, Yao Qinglu, and Ling Qingwu's figures were almost simultaneously shredded by the terrifying lightning laws. Even their primordial spirits didn't have time to escape before they were pulverized by the power of order. As for Ling Xuehan, she was burned alive by Lin Sun's order fire, turning into ashes that drifted through the air. From start to finish, only a moment had passed. But in this almost negligible moment, Yao Tianhan, the Nirvana realm existence, and the other three heavenly longevity realm immortals all died. The entire area was silent. Absolute silence. The Yao and Ling family emperors felt as if they were struck by lightning. They were all dumbfounded and almost broke down. This sudden scene had completely caught them off guard. In an instant, for immortals had perished. The most frightening thing was that all of this had happened right under their noses, yet they didn't have time to react. At this time in the Luo family, Luo Xiao couldn't calm down either. She murmured excitedly, "Forbidden death. How many years has it been? I've finally seen this taboo power once again." Her father was the Lord of Tongtian. How could he not know the terror of the forbidden death? The Luo family elders were also shaken, their eyes dazed. Forbidden death, this was the forbidden death. They looked at the tall figure in the distance, and their vision blurred. In a trance, it was as if they were looking at the former Lord of Tongtian, as proud as a god. Is this our Luo family's forbidden death? How terrifying. This is the true forbidden death. The Luo family members were boiling with excitement. They shouted in excitement, their voices soaring into the sky. Chapter 2752. On the battlefield, Lin Sun glanced at the emperor ancestors in the distance and said, "Master Lu, I'll be leaving first." With that, he turned around and left without any hesitation. Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, and Luo Yong exchanged glances and couldn't help but laugh. Clearly, Lin Sun didn't think much of these emperor ancestors. But the key was, why would these undying existences think much of these emperor ancestors? The Yao clan and Ling clan's emperor ancestors were dumbfounded. The world was unpredictable, but this was it. A moment ago, they were waiting for Yao Tianhan and the others to win and lead them to trample the Luo clan. But now, they were lambs waiting to be slaughtered. So what if they were emperor ancestors? In the eyes of the undying existences, they were no different from lambs. Elder Lu, how do you think we should handle this? Luo Xiao stroked his chin and asked. Before Lu Boya could speak, Luo Yong said murderously, "Weren't they clamoring to flatten Dragon's Pine, Sacred Mountain, and eliminate the Luo clan? Then let's eliminate them now and not leave a single one alive." The Yao clan and Ling clan's emperor ancestors shuddered, and their expressions changed drastically. "Senior, we are honored elders, not members of the two immortal emperor clans. Our every move is under orders. please let us live, someone said with a trembling voice. Following that, many emperor ancestors also began to plead. In reality, they weren't lying. Although there were over 100 of them, and they were all progenitors, 80% of them were honored elders who served the Yao clan and Ling clan. You want to live? Sure, kill the real Yao clan and Ling clan members next to you, and I'll give you a chance. Lu Boya said indifferently. The monarch progenitors immediately became restless. They glanced at the monarch progenitors of the Yao clan and the Ling clan with surging murderous intent. What are you doing? Without the Yao clan, you wouldn't be where you are today. You slaves are afraid of death and betrayed our clan. You deserve to be cut into pieces. The Yao clan and Ling clan members panicked and screamed. What time is it? You're still treating us like slaves? You're courting death. An emperor ancestor roared. Brothers, if you don't want to die, kill these guys with me. Kill. Kill. Immediately, a battle broke out, and the scene became chaotic. In order to survive, the Yao and Ling families' consecrated characters were all ruthless. They attacked together, causing the already small number of Yao and Ling family clansmen to roar in anger. Very quickly, they died one by one. Some people tried to seize the opportunity of the chaos to flee, yet Luo Xiao and the others who'd been constantly paying attention to the battlefield made a move and annihilated them on the spot at the first possible moment. The battle was extremely intense. Miserable cries shook the heavens and blood splashed about. It was like a scene from purgatory. Moments later, at the end of the battle, nearly 20 Emperor Ancestor Realm existences from the Yao and Ling families were slaughtered. As for those worshippers, there were also a number of casualties. However, regardless of whether it was Luo Xiao, Luo Yong, or Lu Boya, none of them cared about all of this. Senior, please give us a way out. One of them bowed and lowered his head. The others also bowed and begged. You can avoid death, but you can't escape punishment. I can let you live, but from today onwards, you must serve my Luo clan. If you have the slightest evil intent, you will definitely suffer a calamity. You must think this through. Lu Boya said calmly. With his methods, he naturally had a way to control these Ancestor Realm existences. The expressions of the Emperor Ancestor Realm powerhouses changed, but they quickly agreed. When they were in the Ning and Yao families, they were worshippers. Now, they were just serving someone else. As long as they could live, it was enough. This seemed like a betrayal, but to them, it was nothing. In the eternal true world, no matter how high one's cultivation base was, if one didn't have a good background, they were destined to be under the command of the immortal emperor clans. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have the opportunity to enter the sixth heaven to cultivate. For example, in the first heaven, Nie Qingrong and Lung Qingxue were also at the Emperor Ancestor Realm, but if they hadn't met Lin Sun, they probably wouldn't have been able to leave the first heaven. For these Emperor Ancestors who had served the Yao and Ling families, they were just vassals. They never had a sense of belonging, because they knew better than anyone that in the eyes of the immortal Emperor clans, even though they were worshippers and elders, they were no different from servants. In this battle, Lin Sun, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, and Luo Yong went to Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain and killed the Nirvana God Realm immortal Yao Tianhan, as well as Yao Qinglu, Ling Qingwu, and Ling Xuan. In addition, 19 Emperor Ancestors from the Yao and Ling families were killed, and the remaining 72 Emperor Ancestors surrendered to the Luo family. Such a result could be considered a complete victory. The Luo family was in an uproar. In this battle, Lin Sun was undoubtedly the most attention-grabbing. He had used the Abyssal Sword Cauldron to destroy the order power of Yao Tianhan and the others, thus creating an opportunity for Lu Boya and the others to heavily injure Yao Tianhan and the others. It was also him who used the forbidden death divine ability at the last moment, killing Yao Tianhan on the spot. Everyone knew that without Lin Sun, it would be very difficult to win this battle, and it was almost impossible to win so beautifully. It was also at this time that the Luo family elders realized why Luo Xiao was so calm and at ease at the beginning. With Lin Sun here, it was enough to turn the situation around. Uncle is like a god. Luo Xuanfu, A dull person was so excited that his eyes were shining. How great it would be if Uncle stayed in our Luo family. Luo Xuanzhen could not help but sigh. While the entire Luo family was in an uproar, Lin Sun had already returned to Jinjia Peak. He sat cross-legged under an ancient willow tree, recovering his lost physical strength. This battle had been planned by him and Master Lu, so there were no accidents. It was only natural that they won. Not long after, Lu Boya also arrived. "You don't look excited at all," Lu Boya asked with a smile. "This is only the first battle, and both Yao family and Ling family have lost two immortal figures. I believe that Yao family and Ling family will not dare to rashly attack us, but I'm sure that Hong family, Wen family, Zhu family, any family will not be frightened by this battle." Lin Sun smiled. "Moreover, with Yao family and Ling family as examples, if they come, they will definitely gather more terrifying forces. Under such circumstances, how can I be excited?" "You are right," Lu Boya said. Lu Boya said, but they overlooked something. This time, the Yao clan and Ling clan have been completely annihilated. Perhaps everyone knows the result of this battle, but the details of this battle are not something that the enemies can deduce. Lin Sun nodded, agreeing with this statement. The existence of Abyssal Sword Cauldron was a great weapon against the power of order. And for those immortal emperor clans, they often used the power of order as a trump card. Under such circumstances, with Abyssal Sword Cauldron, it was enough to catch them off guard. Similarly, the forbidden power of Forbidden Death could also play a vital role in a battle. With these 2 points alone, they could resolve many fatal disasters. But Lin Sun thought more about it. He said calmly, "We won this time because the Abyssal Sword Cauldron caught the opponent off guard and caused him to be seriously injured. And it was under the condition of being seriously injured that the forbidden passing could play a fatal role. But next time, the enemy will send out many existences in the Nirvana realm. Abyssal Sword Cauldron may be able to compete with the power of order they control, but with their own combat power at this realm, we are far from being able to compete with them. As for the Forbidden Death Divine ability, it might be able to catch the opponent off guard, but it'll be very difficult to kill the opponent again like this time." Hearing this, Lu Boya was gratified. "Not bad, not bad. Then what do you think we should do next?" Lin Sun said without hesitation, "The most important thing now is to ask Master Lu to refine the cursed order as soon as possible. As long as we can control the power of this order, we will be invincible in the sixth heaven. At that time, no matter how many enemies come, it will be no different from courting death." Lu Boya muttered, "Even if I go all out, it will take at least half a year." The power of the heavenly order was extremely difficult to refine. It was far from being able to refine in a short period of time, like the order of the Earth Order. In other words, the higher the rank of the order, the harder it was to refine. This was something that all the immortal emperor clans in the eternal world acknowledged. "So we must survive this half a year," Lin Sun said solemnly. "Half a year is destined to be difficult. But as long as we survive, the Luo family will definitely rise again in the future," Lu Boya said solemnly. "At that time, with the power of the heavenly order, who in the entire sixth heaven can be their opponent?" The news that the powerhouses of the Yao and Ling families, led by Yao Tianhan and Ling Qingwu, were annihilated in front of Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain, spread throughout the entire Tianshui Divine Continent in just a few days, immediately setting off shocking waves. The Luo family has been reduced to such a state, but they still won this battle? Countless people were dumbfounded and shocked. Even the powerful Yao Tianhan, who is at the Nirvana realm, died? Could it be that the Luo family is hiding a terrifying power that we don't know about? Many people speculated. This news was too shocking, like a sudden clap of thunder, making the world unable to calm down. The terrible situation of the Luo family was known to everyone. Before this battle, almost no one was optimistic about the Luo family. They all thought that this time, the Luo family would either be annihilated or expelled. They had no other choice. But the result was completely unexpected. The Luo family actually won, and it was a complete victory. This was too incredible. There must be a mystery that we don't know about, and it is very likely the key to the Luo family's complete victory. Many people realized the problem, but no matter who it was, they couldn't figure out how the Luo family won in such a difficult situation. The news also spread to the Yao and Ling families. It was said that these two great immortal emperor clans were also greatly shocked, and it was natural for them to be angry. But along with anger, there was also puzzlement and a chill that could not be erased. The Luo family, which had fallen to its lowest point, actually showed such sharp fangs and swallowed all the forces they sent in one fell swoop. This completely exceeded all their previous deductions and estimates. How did the Luo family do it? P.S. Tomorrow's outbreak. Guaranteed 4 chapters. Strive for 5 chapters. Chapter 2753. The sensation caused by the Tianshui divine land quickly spread to the entire 6th heaven. For a time, it was turbulent. The Luo family, a force that had been in decline for a long time. However, in this battle, the allied forces of the Yao and Ling families were wiped out. This was undoubtedly incredible. First, the branches of the Luo family were suppressed, and then the situation was reversed, causing the Yao and Ling families to suffer such a big loss. Is the Luo family going to rise again? Many people were shocked. Even an undying nirvana god like Yao Tianhan couldn't escape. This is too shocking. The nirvana god realm in the 6th heaven is absolutely a giant that stands at the top of all living beings. They have unimaginable monstrous power. Under normal circumstances, if such an existence desperately wants to escape, almost no one could stop him. The fall of Yao Tianhan can be imagined how much shock it brought to people. In any case, with the news of this battle, the Luo family has become the most eye-catching immortal emperor clan in the 6th heaven. At the same time, an undercurrent began to surge in the 6th heaven. The Wen family, Hung family, Zhu family, He family, Hong family, and other immortal emperor clans began to frequently contact Luo family, Jinjiao Peak. Is this the Purple Thunder Order? Lin Sun held an ancient bronze seal in his palm. At this time, wisps of colorful thunder and lightning emerged. The light was dazzling, and the destructive breath of order was diffused. Not far away, Luo Xiao, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, and others stood side by side, watching this scene with a smile. The next moment, Lin Sun's figure rose from the ground and rushed above the sea of clouds. His clothes fluttered, he took a deep breath, and suddenly activated the abyssal sword cauldron. Clang! A simple Taoist sword swept out of the sword cauldron, making a clear sword sound. Lin Sun's mind moved, and the Purple Thunder Order condensed on the Taoist sword. In an instant, the Taoist sword burst out a terrifying destructive aura, causing the nearby sea of clouds to collapse. Not far away, Luo Xiao's thin figure appeared out of thin air, looking at Lin Sun from afar. "Sun, I'll fight with you." Lin Sun took a deep breath, and his power rose to the extreme in an instant like a volcanic eruption. Boom! The Dao sword that was condensed with the Order of Purple Thunder was like a purple Milky Way as it soared through the sky and slashed down. The nearby void resounded with the sound of rolling thunder, and the vast sea of clouds was dyed a gorgeous purple by the dazzling purple lightning. When the sword slashed down, it was like a heavenly tribulation, vast and mighty like the heavens. Luo Xiao's robes fluttered while he circulated his cultivation at the rebirth god realm, and then he suddenly slapped out with his palm. Rumble, palm, and sword collided. The skies seemed to explode, and the sea of clouds collapsed and dissipated. Luo Xiao's figure shook abruptly while his hair and beard fluttered, and the vital energy in his body roiled. Sun, even though the Violet Thunderbolt Order is only at the 8th grade of the Earth rank, its might is sufficient to pose a lethal threat to Nirvana realm existences. You haven't truly grasped its full power. Luo Xiao shouted and gave Lin Sun some advice. In the distance, Lin Sun fell into silence, comprehending the changes in the power of purple thunder when the sword was slashed out. After a short while, he suddenly raised his head, and the sword before him emitted a clear howl as it slashed out once more. This sword was obviously different from before. It was like a ray of violet light that traversed the past and the present, and it tore open the barrier of space. It was filled with peerlessly fierce momentum and displayed the might to destroy the heavens and the earth. Rumble. This time, even though Luo Xiao blocked the sword, he was shaken to the point of taking a few steps back, and a wisp of a strange expression couldn't help but flash in his eyes. Good. You've grasped almost 60% of the power of the Violet Thunderbolt Order, even though you're only borrowing it. So long as you're able to utilize it to its limits, then its might can easily annihilate heavenly longevity realm existences, and it isn't impossible for it to kill Nirvana realm existences. Luo Xiao spoke in a low voice. After that, he patiently explained the might of the Violet Thunderbolt Order to Lin Sun. Lin Sun listened attentively and consulted him seriously when he encountered any problems. The power of the Order was the foundation of the eternal powers. It was also the source of energy for eternal figures to comprehend and condense the eternal laws. The higher the grade of the power of the Order, the stronger its might would be, and the stronger the eternal laws it could condense would be. On the other hand, borrowing the power of the Order was extremely particular. For example, if one wanted to borrow the Violet Thunderbolt Order of the Luo family, they usually needed secret treasures to communicate with it. These secret treasures were refined from immortal substances and could draw power from the Violet Thunderbolt Order. What a cultivator had to do was to integrate their own willpower into the secret treasures so that they could borrow the power of the Order contained in them. For example, the power of the Order that covered the starry sky ancient road a long time ago was borrowed by the nameless emperor and Shi Tiandi. The sword of forbidden fish that Lu Boya gave Lin Sun before was also borrowed. It was worth mentioning that the power of the Order imprinted in the secret treasures was extremely limited, and it would be exhausted if it was used too many times. If the power of the Order was compared to a lake, then the secret treasures were like containers that could collect the water in the lake and use it, and the containers could only carry limited water. However, the ancient bronze seal that Lin Sun controlled at this time wasn't an ordinary secret treasure, but a treasure of order. This was because the origin of the Violet Thunderbolt Order controlled by the Luo family was refined in this ancient bronze seal. Borrowing the power of the treasure of order was equivalent to directly borrowing the origin of the Violet Thunderbolt Order, which was naturally different from ordinary secret treasures. This ancient bronze seal, for example, had always been controlled by the patriarch of the Luo family and could be called the most precious treasure of the family. But now, Lin Sun used it to practice the method of borrowing the power of the Order to fight. After a long time, Lin Sun raised his eyes in contemplation. His expression was neither sad nor happy, and he wielded his sword for the third time. Time passed day by day. It had been a month since the day he defeated the allied forces of the Yao family and the Ling family. Early this morning, report when Tianshang, a powerful figure in the Nirvana realm of the One family, has appeared outside Dragon's Pine Mountain with experts. Suddenly, someone reported the news, which immediately shocked the entire Luo family. Wen Tianshang, a powerful figure in the Nirvana realm. It was obvious that he had come with bad intentions by leading experts here today. Luo Xiao, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, Luo Yong, and other big shots gathered at once and looked outside Dragon's Pine Mountain. A black chariot appeared. It was tall and mysterious, pulled by 9 primordial fierce beasts. It stood under the sky, suffused with divine light, like the chariot of a deity from beyond the heavens. Behind the black chariot stood the figures of a group of experts. The 4 people at the forefront were all immortal beings of the heaven longevity realm. Such a lineup was enough to make anyone tremble in fear. Fellow Taoists of the Luo family, please forgive us for coming uninvited. A man walked out of the chariot. He was dressed in a black and gold battle suit, flashing with cold black light. His whole person was devilishly handsome, like a young man. He was Wen Tianshang, a terrifying old Nirvana realm expert. Fellow Taoist, Are you here to start a war with the Luo family with your experts? Luo Xiao was very direct and asked coldly. I heard that Lin Sun, a remnant of the Heart Core, is in your Luo family. He killed many of my clansmen. As long as you hand him over, I will leave immediately. I will not make things difficult for the Luo family. When Tianshang's expression was indifferent, he stood on the black chariot with his hands behind his back, exuding a domineering aura that could shake the nine heavens. In fact, Luo Xiao and the others had already guessed the other party's intention, but their hearts still couldn't help but feel heavy after receiving his affirmation. Sure enough, he came with ill intentions. The lessons of the Yao and Ling families are still vivid in our minds. Does your own family want to repeat the same mistakes? Lu Boya spoke in a cold voice. Since we dared to come here at this time, we are naturally fully prepared. If the Luo family insists on protecting Lin Sun this time, I'm afraid that from today onwards, the Luo family will be removed from the sixth heaven. On the black chariot, when Tianshang's voice was indifferent and filled with absolute conceit. Now, with just you, Lu Boya's eyes were filled with disdain. What if you add us? An ethereal voice sounded, and in the distant void, a fiery red lotus boat broke through the air, dazzling and resplendent. On the lotus boat, there were more than a dozen figures. The leader was an old man with long sleeves. His whole body was tranquil, traversing the ancient era, a nirvana realm expert of the Hung family. Everyone was shocked and didn't dare to underestimate him. If this person displayed his power, he could sweep through dozens of provinces. He was absolutely terrifying. The Hung family was extremely famous in the sixth heaven, and their power was incomparable to ordinary immortal emperor clans. Few people dared to provoke them, but now they had also come. This made the hearts of the Luo family members sink to the bottom. It was too sudden. The forces of two immortal emperor clans suddenly appeared in front of Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain. Daoist Tianshang is right. We came here to capture Lin Sun. Hung Zhonggu said indifferently, his words casual. As soon as the sentence came out, everyone's expression changed. It was for Lin Sun again. Luo Zhao's eyes opened and closed, divine light surging. What if the Luo family doesn't agree? Is it worth it to sacrifice the lives of the entire family for an insignificant remnant? When Tianshang asked casually, the expressions of the Luo family members fluctuated. They felt unprecedented pressure. Only the two of you came this time? Lu Boya asked. Of course not. A man's laughter sounded. Then, the people of the Hong family, an immortal emperor clan, arrived. They were led by an elegant young man, wearing a feather robe and holding a golden feather fan in his hand. He was handsome, but his whole body was filled with the terrifying aura of a Nirvana realm expert. Hong Xuandu. It was said that he had lived longer than when Tianshang and Hung Zhonggu. Although he looked like a young man, he was actually an old monster who had lived for an unknown period of time. As soon as Hong Xuandu and the others arrived, the experts of the He family also arrived. All of a sudden, the atmosphere around Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain, became even more oppressive and tense. Where is Lin Sun? Come out and die. The leader of the He family was a woman wearing a red robe. She was extremely beautiful, but her expression was extremely cold. He Wanjin, a Nirvana realm expert. As soon as she arrived with the experts of the He family, she announced that she would kill Lin Sun. At this point, outside Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain, the forces of the four immortal emperor clans, Hung, Hong, and He, had gathered. The scene was like a dark cloud pressing down on a city, suffocating and despairing. But this was not the end. In the distant sky, an earth-shattering roar suddenly sounded. Chapter 2754. Rumbling sounds shook the heavens, and a murderous aura was like a tide, dimming the sky. The Zhu family is here too. Many people were surprised. Even one Tianshang, Hung Zhonggu, Hong Xuandu, He Wanjin, and the others were surprised. Obviously, they didn't expect that the Zhu family, which has the power of the heavenly order and has been planning to move to the seventh heaven, would also be here. There was only one person. His figure was illusory and blurry, impossible to see clearly, but everyone could feel that he was terrifying and powerful. There was also a thick smell of blood that he didn't conceal. In a trance, mountains of corpses and seas of blood piled up in front of them. It was hard to imagine how many creatures this person had killed. Even the 4 immortal emperor clans felt very uncomfortable. The smell of blood was too strong, too terrifying, and affected their minds. Zhu Jiujiang, a nirvana god of the Zhu family. The identity of the person who came was quickly seen through, and everyone revealed a shocked expression. Although it was only Zhu Jiujiang, his ferocity was enough to make people at the same level fear him. Lin Sun must die. Zhu Jiujiang's words were very concise. Only a few words, but they represented the attitude of the Zhu family. Fellow Taoists of the Luo family, you have seen the current situation. Do you want to hand over Lin Sun and protect the Luo family, or do you want the Luo family to be buried together with this child? Make your choice. Wen Tianshang laughed, his eyes cold. In this situation, looking at the entire 6th heaven, which immortal emperor clan dares to resist. In the Luo family, the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. Many people had difficulty breathing, and their expressions changed. This killing tribulation came too suddenly, and it was too terrifying. The 5 immortal emperor clans sent so many immortal emperors. This was obviously premeditated. Luo Xiao and the other big shots couldn't help but frown, their expressions gloomy and ugly. Thinking back to when the Skirich Master was still alive, even in the 7th heaven, no force dared to treat the Luo family like this. But now, in the 6th heaven, there are so many immortal emperor clans that dare to threaten the Luo family, saying that they want to destroy the Luo family. This is undoubtedly a great humiliation. If you don't give me a choice, don't blame me for doing it myself. Hong Xuandu roared. His voice was like a clap of thunder that resounded throughout the world. Their 5 great immortal emperor clans had a group of undying existences overseeing them. Every single one of them possessed towering might, their bodies resplendent and resplendent. Just their aura alone was enough to cause heaven and earth to sink into a deathly silence. Other than Luo Xiao and the other big shots, many other members of the Luo family were frightened. This was not cowardice, but an instinctive suppression. It was like an ant facing an eagle, insignificant and powerless. The difference in cultivation realms was just too great. Undying beings descended. This type of supreme might was simply unbearable, let alone the fact that there were more than 10 undying beings. When they gathered together, this type of power made many Luo family disciples feel like they were going weak and falling to the ground. This was an undying existence, one that stood proudly at the peak of the world, high up above. If they were angered, the sun and moon would change colors. The great earth would sink, and all things would fall into great terror. Usually, sempiternal realm cultivators were rarely seen. They were mysterious and supreme existences that presided over a region. Even though they didn't show themselves to the world, they were a force to be reckoned with, such that enemies didn't dare to invade. But today, more than 10 sempiternal realm cultivators had suddenly appeared, and they were pointing their weapons at the Luo family. This scene was like the collapse of the heavens, and it made people feel uncontrollable fear. If they didn't hand over Lin Sun, this battle was bound to erupt. Hand over that evil creature Lin Sun. Don't struggle pointlessly. Hurry. My patience is limited. If I'm impatient, I don't mind razing this place to the ground. Wen Tianshang, Heng Zhonggu, Hong Xuandu, He Wanjin, and the others all shouted. Their divine might was terrifying, and it caused heaven and earth to tremble. The atmosphere grew more and more somber. A bunch of old dogs, you still dare to bark at our doorstep? Are you tired of living? Lin Sun's voice came from within Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain. His indifferent voice carried a sense of dignity, and his chilly voice carried an oppressive, murderous aura. With a single sentence, he called all the undying beings old dogs. Impudent. When Tianshang snorted coldly. He stood there, but his entire body surged with strand after strand of immortal Tao light, and they transformed into millions of rays of light that whistled out, intending to break open the restrictive formation that covered Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain. Rumble. The rays of light were like rain, and they carried a strand of supreme might. In an instant, this expanse of the heavens and the earth dimmed while space warped and collapsed, and it transformed into shattered black holes and chaotic flows. The members of the Luo clan were shocked, and they felt threatened. "Old dog, I'm coming to kill you right now." Suddenly, a loud shout resounded, and a strand of sword chi was even swifter than the voice. It was extremely simple, yet it blotted out the sky and blotted out the sun. With a light slash, the myriad of rays of light shattered inch by inch and dispersed into nothingness. After that, a figure charged out from Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain. Shockingly, it was Lin Sun. He wore moon-white clothes, and he arrived on a ray of light. His eyes seemed like cold bolts of lightning as they blinked, and they seemed as if they intended to see through the profundities of the world. The members of the Luo clan were stunned when they saw this, and their hearts constricted. What's going on? Could it be that Lin Sun intends to fight the battle by himself? On the other hand, Luo Xiao, Lu Boya, and the others seemed very calm. Obviously, they weren't surprised that Lin Sun would fight the battle by himself. On the other hand, when Tianshang, Hung Zhonggu, and the other sempiternal realm existences narrowed their eyes, they were also very surprised, and then they revealed a cold smile. "Vile Spawn, I didn't expect you to have some courage and responsibility. Do you know that you can't escape, and you intend to lower your head and wait to be killed?" One Tianshang said coldly, and his words were not polite at all. "Ha!" Lin Sun laughed, and his laughter was full of ridicule and coldness. "All these years, I've killed my way from the first heaven to the sixth heaven. When have I ever been afraid? When have you all ever done anything to me? Do you really think that victory is in your grasp just because you put on such a show?" Killing intent surged in his heart. He indeed hated them to the extreme. For so many years, these immortal Emperor clan members were like maggots in his bones, and they wouldn't leave him alone. They had hunted him down many times. How could he not hate them? Swoosh! As he spoke, Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he took the initiative to leave the area where Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain was located. He soared into the sky and arrived below. Who will come first to die, or all of you at once? Under the blood-red setting sun, he stood alone, facing the group of sempiternal realm existences. His thick black hair fluttered in the wind, and his aura was like a great abyss, as if he alone could hold off 10,000 enemies. This shocked the crowd. A single Juxing emperor was declaring war on a group of immortal Emperor clan members. The experts who followed closely behind the group of immortal Emperor clan members were shocked at first, but then they revealed looks of pity. Was he driven into a corner and had gone completely crazy? Yeah, he's indeed young and can't be provoked. Since he's come out, there's no turning back. This vile spawn is really arrogant. Does he want to fight us all alone? Ha ha, how laughable. Lin Sun's attitude fell into the eyes of Wen Tianshang and the others, and instead of being angry, they laughed. In their opinion, Lin Sun's action was no different from courting death. The Luo clan members were nervous, and they didn't understand why Lin Sun would face so many enemies alone under such circumstances. Some of the important figures who already knew that Lin Sun would face the battle alone could not help but feel worried. After all, the enemy forces were numerous, and under such circumstances, no matter how well prepared they were, if any accidents happened, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lin Sun seemed to be unaware of all this, and his expression was calm and indifferent. His gaze swept across Wen Tianshang and the others, and he said softly, "I've already come out, but you don't dare to fight. I've already come out, yet you don't dare to accept my challenge. What? Are you afraid that you'll die an ugly death?" This was called domineering. He was alone, and yet he dared to ignore all the immortal Emperor clan members present. "Everyone, please calm down. Let me destroy this vile spawn." When Tianshang's face darkened, and a saber of interweaving black and white light appeared in his hand. He slashed down, and like a galaxy of lightning, it was accompanied by a peerless and violent power as it slashed toward Lin Sun. Almost at the same time, the other sempiternal realm existences also flashed, and they stood guard in all directions. Their gazes locked onto Lin Sun from afar, blocking his path of retreat. However, Lin Sun made no move to escape, and he directly took out the abyssal sword cauldron. Clang! Accompanied by a clear cry, the Taoist sword entwined with the order of purple thunder whizzed out and met the blade radiance in an instant. The two collided like a big star exploding, setting off a violent explosion that surged and spread. Fortunately, Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain was protected by a great defensive formation that imprisoned heaven and earth and sealed the area. Otherwise, this strike would have destroyed Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain. Because a casual strike from a Nirvana realm undying had the power to burn mountains and boil seas. To everyone's surprise, Lin Sun, who was only in the Emperor Ancestor realm, managed to block the blade of Nirvana God realm when Tianshang. This shocked everyone. However, he soon realized that Lin Sun had blocked the attack with the power of the Purple Thunder Order of the Luo family. Your Luo family really doesn't know what's good for you. You're already in such a predicament. Yet you still dare to let this vile spawn borrow the power of order. Do you really think that you can help this vile spawn escape? Impossible. When Tianshang snorted coldly and stepped forward with his blade, the power of the Purple Thunder Order power could indeed threaten an existence like him, but it was not a problem at all, because he also controlled the power of order. In a flash, he came to Lin Sun. Slash! When Tianshang attacked again, the black and white blade turned into a thunderstorm waterfall that swept away thousands of soldiers. The terrifying light of the immortal way dimmed heaven and earth. This strike carried the aura of the power of order, which made it even more terrifying. Everyone could see that Lin Sun's biggest reliance was the Purple Thunder Order. Otherwise, he would not have been able to withstand when Tianshang's attack with his current realm. After all, when Tianshang was in the Nirvana God realm, and Lin Sun was just an Emperor Ancestor Ju's son. In comparison, he was as small as an ant. But even at this critical moment, Lin Sun still did not retreat. Buzz! The abyssal sword cauldron shone brightly, reflecting billions of rays of light. It was like a scorching sun rising into the sky, clashing head-on with the opponent. Hung Zhonggu, Hong Xuandu, and the others who were watching this scene could not help but show a look of pity, as if they were watching a moth flying into the fire and about to be burned to death. However, an incredible scene appeared. Bang! Amidst the earth-shattering explosions, when Tianshang's slash was easily crushed, it was not even able to block him in the slightest. It was dispersed too quickly. The power of order contained in this slash exploded like a piece of paper, scattering in all directions. P.S. Let's do 2 consecutive chapters first. I'll try to do another 2 consecutive chapters before 7 p.m. On the last day of the month, he asked for a monthly vote. After all, if he didn't vote today, it would be invalid. Chapter 2755. When Tianshang's pupils constricted and his heart trembled. The One family's order power possessed the might of an Earth rank 9, which was even more powerful than the Luo family's Purple Thunder Order power. But now, with just a touch, it was torn apart like a piece of paper. This caught even Wen Tianshang, who had experienced the ups and downs of the world and was experienced and knowledgeable, off guard. Boom! Before he could recover from his shock, a sword that was coiled with the order of violet lightning shot over explosively. It was like a torrential rainstorm that enveloped the surroundings, and it minced this expanse of the heavens and the earth into pieces and transformed it into an area of chaotic sword chi. On the other hand, when Tianshang couldn't avoid being trapped at the center of that area of sword chi. Not good. Hung Zhonggu and the others, who were guarding the nearby area, immediately felt that something was wrong. Their faces changed slightly. They never expected that the situation would change so dramatically in an instant when the battle had just begun. The power displayed by Lin Sun was beyond their imagination. It was hard for them to imagine. After all, The core of the power of that slash was the order power that covered it. However, it had been defeated in an instant. This was simply unbelievable. Those cultivators who came with the many immortal emperor clans were similarly horrified, similarly in disbelief. How could this Lin Sun be so powerful? He's only at the ancestor realm. So how could he possibly easily suppress a nirvana god realm figure like Wen Tianxiang? After all, as a great expert of the Wen clan, Wen Tianxiang had stepped foot into the rebirth god realm for countless years, and the strength he possessed was so formidable that annihilating and undying at the heavenly longevity realm was easy. But now, such a scene had happened. Who could believe this? Dang! At the moment of danger, a layer of black armor suddenly floated up into appearance before Wen Tianxiang. It emanated jet black light that was extremely blazing, and it enveloped his entire body. At the critical moment, it helped him block the rain of swords that covered the sky. However, with a loud bang, cracks appeared on the black armor and it exploded. Wen Tianxiang broke out in cold sweat from shock. He'd just barely escaped death. Yet when he saw his treasure had been destroyed, the double stimulation caused his entire face to turn livid and gloomy. In that moment, his life had almost been threatened by the Zhu Tian ancestor. This simply infuriated him. Whoosh! Lin Sun didn't care about this. Since he failed to kill Wen Tianxiang with one strike, he immediately brandished his sword to kill Wen Tianxiang again. The sword light transformed, and the order of purple thunder circulated, sweeping in all directions. He was so strong that it was a complete mess. This time, the other immortals no longer stood by and watched. They attacked together with Wen Tianxiang, sacrificing all kinds of immortal Taoist soldiers and displaying supreme techniques to suppress and kill Lin Sun from all directions. Rumble, rumble. For a time, violent gales arose in this expanse of the heavens and the earth. Chilly winds howled furiously, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and the sky collapsed. All sorts of phenomena appeared in the heavens and the earth. All the sempiternal realm experts attacked, and they caused all sorts of terrifying scenes that shook the world. Seeing this scene, the eyes of Luo Xiao, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, Luo Yong, and the others narrowed while the worry in their hearts increased. They were ready to support Lin Sun at any time. After all, they were 5 Nirvana realm undying beings and 13 Heaven realm undying beings. But Lin Sun was just the ancestor of Zhu Xing Emperor. If it weren't for the abyssal sword cauldron and the purple thunder, he wouldn't have the ability to fight back. Everyone, please calm down. I can slaughter these old dogs by myself. Lin Sun's cold voice resounded between heaven and earth, which stunned Luo Xiao and the others. They weren't the only ones who heard it. Everyone else present heard it as well, and a feeling of disbelief arose in their hearts. Some were in disbelief, some were bewildered, some were disdainful, some sneered, and so on. But very quickly, everyone present couldn't be bothered to think about this. Their minds were all attracted by this great battle. In the sky, Lin Sun was alone. The abyssal sword cauldron floated up and down. He controlled the Taoist sword and moved about in the air, facing off against the encirclement of the undying beings. He moved about freely, and not only was he not suppressed, he even seemed to be on par with them. This shocked everyone present, and they were dazzled by what they saw. A group of undying beings attacked, but they couldn't do anything to a young progenitor. This was too shocking. Lin Sun, a mere ancestor of Zhu Xing Emperor, even if he borrowed the power of the Purple Thunder Order, could actually do this. This was simply unbelievable. In the eternal true world, such a peerless, monstrous existence that defied the natural order could definitely scare people to death. Because in the past, something like this had never happened. It could be said to be unheard of and unseen. The forces that came with Wen Tianxiang and the others were all shocked at this moment, and their hearts were filled with shock. Everything that happened in front of them completely surpassed their imaginations. Dang! In just a moment, amidst the world-shaking sounds of collision, a celestial longevity realm undying's order power was easily crushed by the abyssal sword cauldron. Immediately after, Lin Sun's Taoist sword flashed through the air. Pooh! Blood splattered, and the person's head was chopped off. The headless corpse was even destroyed by the Purple Thunder Order. From afar, it looked like he had been struck by heaven's wrath and died. When they saw this scene, there was another wave of shock and uproar. What's going on? Isn't this Lin Sun's battle prowess a bit too heaven-defying? The cultivators of the 5 undying emperor clans were all frightened by this bloody scene. Their scalps went numb, and their expressions changed. Originally, they thought that dealing with Lin Sun, a mere Jushian emperor ancestor, any undying being could easily take care of him. But everything that happened now completely overturned everything they knew. It wasn't just them. The undying beings who were attacking Lin Sun were also shocked, and their expressions changed. Be careful of his sword cauldron. It can crush the order power we control. Hong Xuandu shouted. Actually, there was no need for him to remind them. The others had already noticed this. It wasn't that Lin Sun's battle prowess was heaven-defying, but that the sword cauldron in his hand countered the order power, and he also controlled the Purple Thunder Order. Under such circumstances, it was enough to pose a great threat to these undying beings. The heaven longevity, realm undying that was killed just now was proof. This made them both shocked and angry. If they relied on their true battle prowess, they could crush Lin Sun with a finger. If Lin Sun only controlled the Purple Thunder Order power, they wouldn't be afraid at all, because the order power they controlled was enough to break through the Purple Thunder Order. But the key was the sword cauldron in Lin Sun's hand. This treasure was simply undefeatable and could easily break through their order power, so they had no chance to destroy the Purple Thunder Order that Lin Sun controlled. And with their own cultivation and battle prowess, when facing the Purple Thunder Order, they would be greatly threatened. Vile spawn, die now! In the sky, an old man roared, his body burning with undying Tao fire. He controlled a golden jade bottle, and millions of tons of glaring magma god fire poured out, like a galaxy sweeping across the universe, wanting to kill Lin Sun. Old dog, who do you think you are to speak such big words? Lin Sun used the Tao sword to blast away the attacks from other directions, his gaze locking onto the old man, and then he fiercely slashed over. Boom! When the sword struck out, the world changed colors, and even ghosts and gods were shocked. It easily tore through the magma god fire that covered the sky, forcefully crushing the void as it surged forward. With a PU sound, the old man's right arm was chopped off. Bloody light was dazzling, rushing into the sky. The old man let out a miserable cry, his face full of shock. That sword just now almost took his life. The other undying beings that were attacking Lin Sun were also shocked, their expressions gloomy, and they became serious. Through the exchange, they already understood that even if Lin Sun only had the cultivation of the absolute ancestor realm, he who controlled the Purple Thunder Order and controlled the sword cauldron already possessed the power to threaten undying beings. Kill. No matter what, we must kill this bastard today, or else he will definitely become a great threat in the future. When Tianshang roared loudly as he exerted his full strength, and he withdrew a chain that was suffused with the aura of divinity. It was over 1 kilometer long, and it coiled around Wen Tianshang like a bright silver ray of light. Along with a wave of his hand, the chain transformed into numerous rings of eternal light that enveloped down towards Lin Sun's abyssal sword cauldron. Obviously, he intended to seize the treasure. Bang! Lin Sun activated the Tao sword, causing the violet energy of lightning to erupt. Sword chi surged through the heavens and the earth, and it crushed the rings of eternal light in one go. At practically the exact same moment, the abyssal sword cauldron rumbled as it blocked a halberd that pierced towards him, and the energy of order that enveloped the halberd was instantly crushed and dispersed. At this moment, Lin Sun was simply ferocious to the extreme. Even though he was trapped, they were utterly unable to do anything to him, and it caused those eternal realm experts to be both shocked and furious, while their expressions were extremely unsightly. They didn't dare hold back any longer, and they successively utilized their trump cards to trap and kill Lin Sun with all their might. Their attacks grew even more ferocious, and it caused this expanse of the heavens and the earth to fall into great chaos. At this moment, the Tao treasure rumbled and surged through the universe while the glow of treasures whistled through the air and blazed like numerous scorching suns. The terrifying fluctuations of the battle were like gales that raged and whistled through the surroundings, and they tore through the sky and swept through the surroundings. The restrictions that enveloped Dragon's Pine Mountain suffered an extremely great impact, and they roiled violently without end. Should we lend him a hand? Many great figures in the Luo clan revealed worried expressions. The situation of the battle had already arrived at a white-hot state, and it was horrifying to the extreme. So, he couldn't help but worry for Lin Sun. There's no need. Lu Boya shook his head with a calm bearing. If Lin Sun were to encounter danger, then he would naturally make a move at the first possible moment. But at this moment, even though Lin Sun was being besieged, he didn't show any signs of declining. In the battle, the pressure Lin Sun faced increased greatly, yet he wasn't afraid. Conversely, he grew more and more valiant as he fought, and the universe within his body surged with strands of primeval Tao quintessence, causing him to possess extraordinary might. Especially the Tao sword that carried the energy of the Order of Violet Lightning, and its might could be said to be a taboo in heaven-defying existence. The more he fought, the more surging the flames of battle blazed within his heart, and his techniques grew more and more fierce and ferocious. Dying. Suddenly, Lin Sun let out a long howl that was like the roar of a dragon or the roar of tiger. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and the abyssal Tao sword rumbled as it shook off all the attacks, and then it slashed out a brilliant sword chi. This sword contained a myriad of violet arcs of lightning that carried the energy of the Order. It tore through the entire sky, and it was sharp and dazzling. In the eyes of everyone, it was like a thick bolt of lightning that streaked across the sky, and it was incomparably blazing. The expression of an undying heavenly longevity realm expert that Lin Sun targeted completely changed. In his eyes, this sword was like the blade of the Grim Reaper, and it was about to reap his life. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood essence and ignited his origin energy, intending to face it head-on. Rumble. The void collapsed. This sword chi was too swift and fierce, and the violet lightning was violent and indestructible. It illuminated the world for 90,000 kilometers. Pooh! In an instant, the defensive energy of this person's entire body was slashed open, and he was forcefully split into two. A rain of blood poured down, and shrill screams suddenly tore through the world. Everyone present was shocked. Chapter 2756. Another heaven lifespan realm undying was killed, his corpse split into two, a mournful scream piercing through the air. Everyone felt their scalps go numb, finding it hard to breathe. They were all shocked, finding it hard to accept what had happened. How could this be? This exceeded their imaginations. Under the encirclement of a group of undying beings, Lin Sun actually counterattacked, continuously killing two heaven lifespan realm undying beings. What kind of power was this? This was the heaven lifespan realm. With a single thought, heaven and earth were flipped upside down. Heaven and earth changed, able to collapse mountains and rivers in a single breath, incomparably powerful and lofty. Yet right now, they were easily killed here. Many people clearly saw that while Lin Sun was killing the undying being, there were people who tried to help, but they were all blown away by Lin Sun. No one able to reverse all of this. This kind of disdain, who wouldn't be shocked? At that moment, it was not only the people from the Luo family that were stunned. Even the powers that had come to attack the Luo family were stunned. They were completely stupefied and were unable to calm their hearts. This Lin Sun was too terrifying, a peerless enemy, simply defying the heavens to the point of being unreasonable. Old ancestor, a group of people shouted, their faces full of fear. That was their family's old antique. Now that he was dead, they had completely lost their protection. At this moment, when Tianshang and the other undying beings were already as if they were facing a great enemy, every one of them circulating their full cultivation, their bodies releasing brilliant, undying energy like divine mountains standing side by side, releasing blazing light, resonating with each other, filling heaven and earth with endless Tao light, a rain of light everywhere. Their faces were terrifyingly gloomy, filled with shock and anger. Originally, they had nothing to fear, thinking that they were just killing Jueshian Emperor Ancestor, easily killing him with a flick of a finger. But now, Lin Sun's world-shocking battle strength that couldn't be measured with common sense made the situation become dangerous. Shua. All of this didn't affect Lin Sun at all. His movements didn't stop, his figure flickering in the void. The Tao sword in his hand shook, once again slashing out a resplendent light. With a rumble, it pressed forward. This sword energy was too blazing, accompanied by terrifying purple lightning order power, overflowing with endless lightning, causing the hearts of every undying being to become heavy. Arrogant. Zhu Jiujiang's face was gloomy, coldly speaking. A blood-colored sword in his hand pierced through the air, creating a terrifying image of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, forcefully colliding. Boom! The heavens and the earth were overturned. It was an expanse of gorgeous light. A rain of light covered the sky densely, and it shot into the sky. This place became an ocean of sword chi that spread outwards, and its impetus was peerlessly grand and oppressive to the soul. However, just like before, the power of order imprinted in Zhu Jiujiang's sword was easily disintegrated. The order of purple thunder in Lin Sun's Taoist sword was released wantonly. Puff! Even someone as powerful as Zhu Jiujiang, a nirvana god realm existence, coughed up blood from the impact of this sword strike. His face was extremely livid while his eyes almost split apart from rage, and he was simply on the verge of going mad. A single sword cauldron was able to restrain the power of order and thwart their attacks time and time again. Furthermore, they were being threatened by the Luo family's purple lightning order with their own combat strength, who wouldn't go crazy. At this time, the other immortals didn't dare be negligent either. They joined forces and launched attacks at the same time, going all out. It was as if numerous ancient divine mountains were moving horizontally to suppress and kill Lin Sun. In an instant, the whole world was filled with immortal light, powerful and supreme, and it produced a terrifying oppressive force that crushed towards Lin Sun. Such a joint attack was terrifying to the point that it caused one's heart to tremble, and it was difficult for one to resist. However, Lin Sun, who was in the middle of the battle, was like a dragon that had emerged from the abyss. Not only did he not dodge, but he instead met the attack head-on. His Taoist sword flashed through the air and slashed out surging sword chi of the Order of Purple Thunder, colliding with the attack head-on. Rumble. The whole world seemed to be collapsing, sinking, and collapsing. The terrifying collision waves turned this place into a chaotic area. A rain of light rumbled, and it made it impossible for one to see clearly what was going on inside. A battle of this level was too terrifying. Whether it was the clansmen of the Luo family or the foreign hostile forces, all of them felt their hearts palpitate at this moment, and their minds were unable to calm down. Bang! Soon, an ear-piercing roar resounded in the battlefield that was covered by the rain of light. Then, an incomparably miserable howl resounded. Evil creature, how dare you destroy my treasure? I'll fight you to the death. Old dog, I'll send you on your way. Almost at the same time, Lin Sun's calm and murderous voice resounded. Before his voice had died away, Lin Sun, dressed in a moon-white robe, suddenly stepped on the void and came to a black-robed middle-aged man. His whole body was glittering and otherworldly. Swoosh! A wisp of sword chi accompanied this move, and it was like a strand of light that came from the depths of the starry sky. It suddenly slashed down, and a head soared into the sky while a rain of blood sprayed. This head flew very high up into the sky, and its face carried terror, unwillingness, and bewilderment and disbelief. Another heavenly longevity, realm undying, had been killed, and he'd completely lost his life. This scene shocked everyone once more, causing them to be dumbstruck like clay statues, and they were practically on the verge of suffocating. They were unable to imagine that in just a short moment, another sempiternal realm expert had died at Lin Sun's hands. Did this mean that even if all the undying realm experts joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for Lin Sun? The battle still continued, and it wasn't delayed because of this. It was even to the extent that the death of 3 heavenly longevity realm experts caused the situation of the battle to become even more horrifying. No one dared to be careless any longer. When Tianshang and the others didn't dare to hold back any longer, and they fought desperately against Lin Sun. Meanwhile, Lin Sun similarly didn't hesitate in the slightest. He moved through the pincer attack of the undying realm experts by himself, and his might was like that of a god. His jet black hair fluttered in the wind, and his gaze was like cold lightning. The abyssal sword cauldron floated above his head, and the Tao sword carried the violet energy of the Order of Lightning as it shot out violently in all directions. He was like an undefeatable and peerless monarch, arrogant and proud. His heroic bearing caused everyone present here to be astounded, and their minds shook and were unable to restrain themselves. Pooh! Not long after, Lin Sun seized an opportunity and flashed forward, and he actually forcefully killed a heavenly longevity realm expert. Swish, a rain of blood sprayed down. That undying realm expert didn't even have the chance to let out a shrill cry before he was crushed on the spot, and the state of his death was so horrifying that it awed everyone present. Damnable vile spawn. All the undying realm experts, including when Tianshang roared furiously, and their expressions were livid and gloomy to the extreme. Their eyes almost split apart from rage, and their hair stood on end from anger. Up until this point, it hadn't even been 10 minutes, yet 4 undying realm experts had successively been killed. Besides making them feel furious, they also felt a type of uncontrollable terror and fear. This was too terrifying. It caught them off guard, and they couldn't accept it. It wasn't just them. Everyone present was so shocked that they almost lost control of their minds. Lin Sun's power once again brought them a strong subversive impact, which was beyond their imagination. Yet, this was just the beginning. 10 finger snaps later, a man wearing a rainbow robe and wielding a pair of bronze maces was killed. The sword energy of the purple lightning laws sliced him in 2 at the waist, and his soul scattered. 30 finger snaps later, 2 heavenly longevity realm undying realm experts who teamed up to attack Lin Sun were killed by Lin Sun's lightning sword formation. At the same time, the Nirvana realm undying Hong Xian was injured, and one of his arms was ripped off by the sword formation. 50 finger snaps later, accompanied by a shrill scream, a mighty man who couldn't dodge in time exploded in the void, turning into a rain of blood that filled the sky. He was swept away by the purple lightning laws and was killed, and as time went on, the number of undying realm experts attacking Lin Sun also started to decrease 15 minutes after the battle erupted. Everyone who was in shock suddenly realized that of the 13 heavenly longevity realm undying realm experts attacking Lin Sun, 9 were already killed, and only 4 were left, and one Tianshang, Heng Zhonggu, Hong Xiandu, Zhu Jiujiang, He Wanjin. The 5 Nirvana realm undying existences were more or less injured. Especially Hong Xiandu, he was heavily injured. This discovery made everyone who was in a daze feel a chill, as if they fell into an ice cave. Wenju, Xian Emperor ancestor, had fought until now, killed 9 heavenly longevity realm undying realm, and injured 5 Nirvana realm existences. This was simply shocking. How is this possible? At this time, Hewanjin's expression changed, full of shock. As a Nirvana realm undying, she had never experienced such a strange and bloody battle before. If we don't take this kid's sword cauldron, there's no solution to this battle. Hong Xiandu gritted his teeth. His devilishly handsome face was filled with malevolence. At this point, their side had suffered heavy casualties. Yet Lin Sun was unharmed. This made them want to go crazy. Who didn't know that if this situation continued, the casualties would only get worse and worse. These Nirvana realm, undying realm, used all sorts of secret arts and treasures to try and take away Lin Sun's abyssal sword cauldron. But without exception, they all failed. Instead, during this process, they were heavily injured and their hearts were about to explode. Rumble. Suddenly, a shocking collision sound resounded. Another undying was killed on the spot. The bloody scene infuriated Wen Tianxiang, and he roared in a stern voice, "Bastard, do you dare to not cheat?" The entire place was eerily silent. Those who were originally shocked to the point of losing their minds were stunned. How could a Nirvana realm, undying realm, say such deranged words? The people from the Luo family were all stunned. Then they burst into laughter. Their laughter shook the heavens. This old thing was forced into a panic. That's why he said such stupid words, right? Do you dare not cheat? Do you dare to suppress your cultivation to Emperor Ancestor Realm to fight Lin Sun? The laughter spread, causing Hong Xuandu, Hung Zhonggu, and the others to stare with wide eyes. Wen Tianxiang, don't you care about your bearing and status? You've lost all your face. The moment he said it, Wen Tianxiang also realized he was wrong, but he couldn't take it back. His old face was purple. An indescribable sense of shame stimulated his mind. He was too ashamed to show his face. But very quickly, he couldn't care about that, because Lin Sun, who had been fighting fiercely, killed another heaven longevity, realm, undying realm. This bloody scene caused the atmosphere to become oppressive again. The spectators' hearts also tightened. Go! And at this time, He Wanjin suddenly pulled away, teleporting into the distance. She actually gave up on fighting and decided to retreat. This sudden scene caused the situation on the battlefield to change abruptly. First, thank you, Transient Impermanence Brother, for your generous monthly tickets. There will be more at night. Finally, just 100 more tickets to get into top 10. Urgently begging for monthly tickets. Check if your free monthly tickets have been spent. They'll be useless after tonight. Chapter 2757. On the battlefield, only 2 of the 18 Heaven Longevity Realm Immortals were left, when Tianxiang and the other Nirvana Realm Immortals were more or less injured. Lin Sun, on the other hand, was completely unscathed. Under such circumstances, even if He Wanjin felt aggrieved and angry, she knew she had to make a decision. Then, she chose to retreat. It couldn't be said to be a wise move. It was nothing more than a passive choice. He Wanjin's sudden retreat was beyond Wen Tianxiang and the others' expectations. Their fighting spirit was shaken. How could they not know that if the situation did not change, the battle would become more and more unfavorable? At this moment, under the sky, a space-time crack silently appeared. It was thousands of meters long, and it formed a faintly discernible space-time gate. Endless light rained down, and the mysteries of time and space intertwined, producing a terrifying and boundless devouring power. From afar, it looked like a bloody mouth had suddenly split open in the sky. The Gate of Exile. When the fighting spirit of the Nirvana realm was shaken, Lin Sun did not hesitate to display this forbidden talent. This is Wen Tianxiang, Hong Xuandu, Hung Zhonggu, Zhu Zhejiang, and the other immortals' expressions changed abruptly. They subconsciously looked up at the sky. Inside the space-time gate, that was like a huge crack. The darkness was boundless and mysterious, like the gate to hell. An indescribable sense of fatal threat was like a blade piercing into the hearts of Wen Tianxiang and the others, making their hair stand on end. Relying on the experience and instincts honed through years of cultivation, they chose to dodge at the first moment, exhausting all their strength as if their lives depended on it. Boom! A terrifying, devouring power was released from the space-time gate, like a giant hand reaching out from heaven, trying to drag Wen Tianxiang and the others in. Their figures staggered, and they were shocked to find that the rules of space nearby were completely disordered, making it impossible to teleport. Instead, they were dragged by the devouring power, and a moment of carelessness almost swept away. Open! When Tianxiang and the others shouted, using all their strength to resist, completely anxious. However, at this moment, Lin Sun rushed forward, once again using the forbidden passing, when Tianshang and the others froze for a moment. In that instant, they were engulfed by the boundless devouring power and sucked into the gate of time and space. Among them, Zhu Jiujiang was the most tyrannical. When his figure was only 10 feet away from the gate of time and space, he actually broke free from the forbidden power. He let out an earth-shattering roar, while the eternal light of the Tao erupted from his body like a volcano, and he forcefully steadied himself. But at this time, Lin Sun's Taoist sword, wrapped in the order of purple thunder, had already arrived. Sword chi swept out, covering the sky and covering the sun. Zhu Jiujiang, who had just steadied himself, was so shocked that his soul almost flew out of his body. He used all his strength to resist, and although he finally dissolved the power of the sword, his body suffered a terrifying impact and flew uncontrollably into the space-time gate. No. In the end, Zhu Jiujiang merely let out a howl that carried unwillingness, terror, and rage before he vanished, just like when Tianshang and the others. Then, the gate of exile also disappeared from the sky. He Wanjin, who'd already fled extremely far away, shuddered. Her divine sense had always been on guard as she fled, and she'd witnessed the scene of the door of exile appearing and swallowing when Tianshang and the others in one go. This caused her to experience unprecedented terror. They had all disappeared. When she thought of how she had fled just a little later, He Wanjin felt like she was about to break down. Dead, they're all dead. Her hair was a mess as she fled madly, almost as if she was burning her own cultivation. Soon, she disappeared into the vast horizon. At that moment, there was only silence near Dragon's Pine, Divine Mountain. It was terrifyingly quiet. If the scenes of Lin Sun killing the immortals in succession were said to have shocked the people and left them in disbelief, then at that moment, they were completely terrified. A gate that had opened under the sky had taken away a group of immortals. Even the powerful existences in the Nirvana realm could not break free. How terrifying was this? In all of the 9 great heavenly regions of the eternal true world, throughout the ages, who had ever seen such an unbelievable sight? Luo family, Luo Xiao, Lu Boya, and the others were all shaken, and their expressions were dazed. They were deeply shocked by this scene. As for the Luo family members, they had long since lost their composure and stood there in a daze. In the eyes of everyone, at this moment, the tall figure that stood alone beneath the sky seemed like a god of legend. At that moment, Lin Sun took a deep breath with great difficulty and said, "Mr. Lu, I'll leave the rest to you." Before he finished speaking, he coughed up blood, and his vision darkened. His body swayed, and he fell straight down from the sky. Swoosh! Lu Boya arrived at the first moment and caught Lin Sun's body. His heart was in his throat. Lin Sun's face was pale and translucent. His chi was on the verge of exhaustion, and he was extremely weak. Even his life force was extremely weak. Blood flowed from the corners of his lips and dyed his clothes red. It was a piercing sight. At that moment, Luo Xiao, Luo Xiao, Luo Yong, and the other important members of the Luo family had rushed out and surrounded Lu Boya nervously. "How is he? Is he all right? I have a healing panacea here. Let him take it first." Everyone was talking at once, extremely worried. "I'll bring him back to the clan first. I'll leave those guys to you guys." Lu Boya glanced into the distance. The cultivators from the 5 great immortal emperor clans were frantically fleeing into the distance. "Okay." Luo Xiao and the others nodded and started chasing. Lu Boya brought Lin Sun back to Dragon's Pine Mountain. In this battle, the 5 immortal emperor clans, Wan, Heng, He, Hong, and Zhu, came together, but they lost miserably in front of Dragon's Pine Mountain. Strictly speaking, they lost miserably to Lin Sun alone. Apart from He Wanjin, the other 4 Nirvana Realm Immortals and 18 Longevity Realm Immortals all died. This battle shocked the entire Luo family, because before the battle broke out, no one thought that Lin Sun alone could turn the tide. This was destined to be a legend. It would forever be imprinted in the memory of the Luo family, never to be forgotten. 1 month later, Jianjia Peak. Lin Sun, who had been in a coma, slowly woke up. Awake? Lu Boya's voice sounded in his ear. Lin Sun looked up and saw Lu Boya sitting on the side of the bed, his face full of joy. You brat, you really don't want to live. According to our original plan, we don't need to kill many people. As long as we can defeat them, it will be enough. But you used the second and third stage of your talent at the last moment. If it wasn't for your strong Taoist foundation, this attack alone would have sucked out all your energy. Lu Boya scolded, "Don't do this in the future." Lin Sun smiled disapprovingly and said, "If we just defeat them, it won't take long for them to make a comeback. Therefore, we must beat them until they are afraid of us. We must kill them so that they won't dare to attack us again in a short time." After a pause, he continued, "Furthermore, I've been enemies with them for many years. In the past, I've always been hunted down by them. I've long accumulated a bellyful of anger. Now that there's an opportunity to kill them, how can I miss it?" Lu Boya sighed, "But you are too risky." Thinking of the scene of Lin Sun fainting on the battlefield that day, Lu Boya still felt a lingering fear. If something happens to Lin Sun, he will spend the rest of his life in guilt and self-blame. From now on, you can rest here and recuperate. As you guessed, those immortal imperial clans won't dare to come again in a short time. Lu Boya couldn't help but sigh when he said this. Over the past month, with the news of the destruction of the 5 immortal imperial clans, the 6th heaven has been turned upside down, setting off countless shocking waves. Because he Wanjin escaped, Lin Sun's combat power was also exposed. Now, everyone in the 6th heaven knows that in front of Dragon's Pine Divine Mountain, Lin Sun killed a group of immortal imperial clans with the cultivation base of Jushi Emperor. They also heard that Lin Sun has a sword cauldron that can restrain the power of order. People even thought of the Yao and Ling families that suffered a crushing defeat. They guessed that the annihilation of the 2 immortal imperial clans was very likely related to Lin Sun. All of this made Lin Sun's name resound throughout the world, like the sun in the sky. And the Luo family also received a lot of attention because of this. In the past, almost all the immortal imperial clans didn't put the Luo family in their eyes. They thought that the Luo family was a building that would collapse at any time. However, after experiencing these 2 battles, the world's perception of the Luo family had also been refreshed, and their view of the Luo family had changed. Therefore, no matter how much the outside world was shocked in the past month, no force dared to come and offend them. All of this, Lin Sun's contribution is indispensable. Master Lu, the origin of the Purple Thunder Order has been exhausted by me. I'm afraid that the Luo family now. Lin Sun thought of something, but before he could finish his sentence, Lin Sun interrupted him with a smile. "Don't worry. No one will dare to come for a while without the protection of order." Lin Sun nodded. In the battle a month ago, he used the Purple Thunder Order to kill his enemies. Although he slaughtered a group of immortal imperial clans, the origin of the Purple Thunder Order was exhausted. In other words, the power of the 8th level of the Earth rank had dissipated, causing the Luo family to lose the protection of order. This was the price. It seemed like he had only used up one type of order power, but in reality, this price was enough to remove an immortal imperial clan from existence. After all, without order power, they would lose their greatest protection, and the immortal imperial clans would no longer be able to understand and refine the immortal laws. In the eternal true world, the existence of the immortal imperial clans was because of order and also because of order power. The clansmen needed the protection of order, and the immortal imperial clans needed to understand and refine the immortal laws from order power. The existence of order power was the root of the immortal imperial clans. If the root was gone, how could they survive? However, to Lin Sun and the entire Luo family, using the Purple Thunder Order to exchange for the lives of the immortal imperial clans, there was only one word: worth it. Because soon, the Luo family would have a brand new order power. A heavenly order power that was even more powerful than the Purple Thunder Order. P.S. Fifth update. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your precious votes. The tired goldfish will lie down first. Good night. Chapter 2758. Here are your spoils of war. Lu Boya thought of something and handed a storage treasure to Lin Sun. Lin Sun opened it and saw that there were more than 10 immortal Tao soldiers. Apart from that, there were also many divine materials containing immortal substances, which were equally valuable. Lin Sun felt a wave of shock. These undying existences really were a bit too well off. He was only a step away from the immortal realm. At that time, if he wanted to completely refine the sword cauldron into an immortal Tao soldier, the immortal substances needed would probably be extremely shocking. And these spoils of war were exactly what he needed. I've already ordered that no one will disturb you if there's nothing urgent. Just stay at Jinjia Peak for the time being. Lu Boya gave a few more instructions before getting up and leaving. Lin Sun sat up on the bed and exhaled a long breath. It had been a month. His exhausted cultivation and spirit had recovered a lot, but he was still very weak. He would need at least 3 to 5 months to completely recover. I can't fight like this again unless I encounter a fatal threat, Lin Sun warned himself. Although he won the battle with Wen Tianshang and the other immortals, the price he paid was too great. The Earth Rank 8 Purple Thunder Order was completely consumed. Even his own strength and vitality were exhausted, and he directly fainted on the battlefield. Fortunately, he was in the Luo clan. If it were anywhere else, any random enemy would be able to take his life. The outside world was turbulent, but all of this had nothing to do with Lin Sun. From that day on, he almost never left Jinjia Peak. Healing, cultivation, deducing the 9 forbidden formations of the Wuji book. Occasionally, Lu Boya, Luo Xiao, and Luo Qinghen would come and drink with him. Most of their topics were related to cultivation, and they rarely mentioned anything about the outside world. Time flew by like a shuttle. A few months later, on Jinjia Peak, the sea of clouds was misty, and the pines and bamboos were dancing. Lin Sun, dressed in a moon-white robe, sat casually on a cliff rock. The Wuji book floated quietly in front of him, emitting desolate, vast, and mysterious waves. At this moment, his expression was calm. His hands were constantly making gestures, condensing obscure and mysterious methods. In front of him, the surface of the Wuji book glowed, reflecting layers of patterns of forbidden formations. Boom! It wasn't long before one of the Tao marking restriction formations suddenly emanated surging flames, and then a myriad of talisman markings flickered and flowed about while deducing boundless profundities. Vaguely, there was a god. The illusory figure stood at the center of the fire Tao restriction formation. He wore an imperial crown and a crimson robe, and his figure was mighty while his imposing aura raged and violent. He was like a god of flames that had been born from the world. Following this god, the entire Tao pattern forbidden array resonated with it and manifested a myriad of primordial mysteries related to the grand Tao of fire. In the end, the flame-like forbidden formation turned into a Taoist pattern and floated beside Lin Sun, surrounded by endless flames. Soon, as Lin Sun made a gesture with both hands, one of the 9 forbidden formations covering the Wuji book rose into the air with a roar. The water in this forbidden formation was tumbling, as if it contained all the water in the world. The endless Taoist patterns sometimes tumbled and surged, sometimes as calm as a mirror, sometimes setting off monstrous waves, and sometimes like a spring breeze and rain. Vaguely, a figure emerged from the Taoist pattern forbidden formation. He was wearing a black robe, and his figure was blurred and surrounded by countless streams of water. He was like a primordial god that controlled all the water in the world. Soon, the forbidden formation turned into a Taoist pattern and floated in front of Lin Sun. In the following time, one forbidden formation after another emerged from the Wuji book, deriving the mysteries of the primitive Taoist patterns such as gold, wood, earth, wind, thunder, and so on. Finally, they turned into Taoist patterns and surrounded Lin Sun. When the patterns of the 9 forbidden formations were arranged in the shape of 9 palaces and surrounded Lin Sun was suddenly enlightened. The 9 forbidden formations were 9 kinds of basic formations inherited from Master Lu's sect. They were called the 9 gods: Green Emperor and Wood Emperor, White Emperor and Golden Emperor, Black Emperor and Water Emperor, Red Emperor and Fire Emperor, Yellow Emperor and Earth Emperor, the 5 gods, also known as the 5 elements god, then Wind Emperor and Wind Emperor, Demon Ancestor and Spirit Emperor, Dongwang Ziwei, Mystic Emperor and Thunder Emperor, and the 5 elements god. Together, they became a kind of supreme and unpredictable Taoist pattern inheritance. At this time, Lin Sun thought of something. The 9 gods around Lin Sun, in the pattern, the phantoms of the gods and emperors suddenly appeared. Each of them was as mighty as a god. Tut! Lin Sun suddenly opened his eyes and uttered an obscure and strange syllable like thunder in spring. Boom! At this moment, the gods floating in the void suddenly released hundreds of millions of Taoist patterns. Billions of Dao patterns were suddenly released on the surface. These Dao patterns were like a dense and vast starry sky. They were dense and seemingly endless. They constantly cycled, combined, and constructed one formation after another. Then these formations continued to evolve and echo with each other. Finally, they combined into new gods. All of a sudden, the gods began to operate and shine brightly. It rumbled as it circulated and glowed brilliantly. It emanated a myriad of strands of divine radiance, and it illuminated this mysterious space to the point it was dazzling and resplendent. Among them, there was light, darkness, blurred and illusory starlight, silent and faint annihilation light, and ever-changing spiritual clouds of creation. They were gorgeous and blazing to the extreme. Looking at this scene, Lin Sun had more and more insights in his heart. The 9 gods? Each of them is a system, but they echo with each other and carry out different evolutions to form different gods. Formation diagram. For example, the god of light, the god of darkness, the god of stars. Wait, the Tao is infinite. Gods, there is no end to them. Later, as Lin Sun continued to deduce, the 9 gods continued to blend and evolve, gradually and thoroughly integrated into one. At this time, the Wuji book glowed and produced a strange wave. It flew up and merged with the 9 gods, blended together. Boom! Amidst the roar of the primordial chaos, a mysterious god appeared in the Wuji divine book. This god? It was an expanse of chaos with a myriad of Tao markings that flowed without end. They were developing different profound trajectories at all times, and merely taking a glance at them caused others to feel agitated and on the verge of coughing up blood. Because it was too vast, it seemed to contain all the mysteries of the world. At this time, even if the Emperor Ancestor was here, he would have a palpitating feeling as if his soul was being devoured. In Lin Sun's eyes, this god, it could be said to seize all creation. It was too mysterious and terrifying, like the origin of the Tao patterns in the world. It was also at this moment that Lin Sun knew that this god was called Wuji. The Great Way was boundless, and the Tao patterns were endless. And this was also the core inheritance of Master Lu's sect. Unknowingly, Lu Boya's figure had appeared nearby. He had witnessed all of this, and gratification and excitement appeared on his face. Master, although I didn't really inherit the Wuji book at that time, but now, there is finally a successor who can inherit it. Lu Boya murmured in his heart. He didn't tell Lin Sun that he had only mastered 9 gods in the countless years since he became Master Lu's disciple. Some of the mysteries of the 9 gods had never really integrated these 9 gods. Completely integrated. And this also made him unable to touch the mystery of Wuji book so far. It had to be said that this was a regret buried in Lu Boya's heart for many years. But now, this regret disappeared as Lin Sun opened the Wuji book and mastered Wuji book. Completely disappeared until a few days later. Lin Sun woke up from his meditation. At this time, Audiobook, all the mysteries of the inheritance had been obtained by him. Audiobook. It turns out that Tao patterns are runes, spiritual tattoos, traces of the Great Way, the cornerstone of the rules, and the origin of the forbidden formation. Lin Sun's heart surged with unprecedented joy. Mastering Audiobook, the inheritance was like opening the door to a new world. Strictly speaking, Audiobook was an extremely unique inheritance. The forbidden formation it described was precious in the word Wuji, because the Tao in the world was vast and endless, and the traces of the Great Way were also endless. All of these could be derived into Tao patterns, condensed into Tao diagrams, and combined into a Tao formation. In Audiobook, the cornerstone of Audiobook was the 9 gods. As one's cultivation became deeper and deeper, he could start from Audiobook. More and more incredible mysteries of Tao patterns were deduced, and more powerful forbidden formation was constructed. This was the meaning of the word Wuji. I really don't know this Audiobook. Who made the inheritance? It's so incredible. At this moment, Lin Sun couldn't help sighing with emotion and shock. Suner, Lu Boya had been waiting until now. Only then did he speak with a smile. From now on, I have nothing to teach you in the path of spiritual runes. With this Audiobook, you will surely surpass your master in the future. Lin Sun quickly got up and invited Lu Boya to take a seat. If it wasn't for Master Lu, I wouldn't be here today, Lin Sun said with a smile. Lu Boya also smiled. After chatting with Lin Sun for a while, he said, Sun, you have the sword cauldron that can resist the power of order, and now you have mastered the Audiobook? As for the inheritance, I suggest that you go to the mysterious forbidden zone of Chaos Demon Sea. Mysterious forbidden zone? Lin Sun was surprised. Yes, that restricted area was formed from natural restriction order. There are a total of 9 types, and all of them possess might above the heaven rank. Moreover, the restriction order within it has even given birth to a spirit of order. The sort of restriction I gave you that day was refined from the restriction order I subdued. Lu Boya couldn't help but feel a little depressed when he said this. Unfortunately, my ability was limited at that time, and I couldn't subdue the spirit of order. Lin Sun was shocked when he heard this. 9 kinds of primordial forbidden order, and one of them gave birth to the spirit of order. Wasn't the mystic forbidden zone a little too miraculous? He had personally experienced the power of the sword of restriction, and it was with this sword that he killed Pei Ru, He Boyong, Yu Huai, Luo Chong, and other immortals one by one. But now, according to Master Lu, if he could subdue the spirit of order, the meaning would be completely different. Chapter 2759. On the same day, Lin Sun quietly left the Luo family alone. Half a month later, Chaos Demon Sea, Mysterious Forbidden Zone. Lin Sun smoothly arrived at the Forbidden Zone according to Lu Boya's directions. The Black Sea undulated. Above the sea, countless restrictions formed by the power of order interweaved together, covering the sky and the sea. There was no end in sight. The power of order was complex, turbulent, and boundlessly violent. Even looking at it from afar, it made one's heart palpitate. Legend had it that the mysterious Forbidden Zone had existed since the beginning of time in the eternal world. For countless years, it had always been a forbidden zone that made people pale at the mention of it. Even the immortals did not dare to set foot in it. Lin Sun stared at it from afar for a long time, then took out the jade slip given by Master Lu and read it again. In the past years, Lu Boya had explored this forbidden zone more than once, and learned many secrets unknown to others. And these precious experiences were exactly what Lin Sun needed. After a while, the abyssal sword cauldron quietly appeared above Lin Sun's head. Swish! His figure flashed, and he flashed directly into the profound forbidden zone. Boom! The terrifying restriction was like a raging storm. As soon as Lin Sun rushed over, he was met with a terrifying impact and pressure. Apart from that, the scene in front of him kept changing, as if there were countless broken worlds flashing in front of him. This was a world created by the restriction, and it was extremely dangerous. Once trapped in it, even if one could survive, he could be lost in it for the rest of his life. But all this was in vain for Lin's son. As the abyssal sword cauldron operated, it resisted and dissolved the violent power of the restriction, and he continued to move through the countless restriction worlds. What surprised Lin's son was that although the Nirvana order could resist the power of the restriction, it was far from being able to easily devour it like before. It was like encountering a bone that was difficult to chew. Even if it could defeat the opponent, it could only absorb it bit by bit when refining. It was like fighting against the earth-rank power of order in the past. The Nirvana order could devour it in one gulp and completely refine it. But now it could only nibble at it bit by bit. Moreover, the restriction that could be refined was extremely limited. Most of the time, the Nirvana order could only resist and suppress, and its refining effect was greatly weakened. It was the first time for Lin's son to see the Nirvana order being obstructed over the years. The restrictive order in this place is indeed extraordinary. Lin's son went deeper carefully while thinking. According to Lu Boya's guidance, the dark restriction region was extremely vast, and it was comparable to a world. The deeper one went, the more terrifying the might of the restrictions and order it covered would be. As for how big the profound forbidden region was, even Lu Boya did not know. This made Lin's son more vigilant and careful in his actions. After the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, a barren land appeared in the distance. The dried-up land was a strange black color, and from time to time, a strange black light would appear. Blacklight Forbidden Zone. This was the place Lu Boya had arrived at all those years ago, and it was also here that he'd successfully subdued a strand of forbidden order. However, when Lin's son arrived here, he was surprised to find that someone had already arrived. Furthermore, it was a group of people. The person in the lead was a yellow-robed old man with white hair and a sage-like bearing. He held a feather fan in his hand while his sleeves fluttered in the wind, and his entire body emanated an obscure and mysterious aura. Looking at it from afar, Lin's son felt a sense of extreme danger. This was a feeling that he had never felt when facing Wen Tianshang, Hung Zhonggu, and other Nirvana realm existences. Almost at the same time, the yellow-robed old man seemed to have noticed something. He turned his head to look at Lin's son, and a trace of surprise flashed in his deep eyes. At the moment when Lin's son was stared at by the old man, his body suddenly stiffened. Years of fighting experience made him realize that the yellow-robed old man was definitely a terrible existence that he couldn't fight against at present. Interesting. It's surprising that a Zhu Xing ancestor could reach here with his own life weapon. The yellow-robed old man said with a smile. There were 4 people standing beside him, 3 men and 1 woman. The men were handsome and the woman was beautiful. All of them had outstanding temperament, and each of them was a rare talent. At this time, they also looked at Lin's son. At first, they were stunned, and then they all showed surprise. My little friend, are you also here to subdue the order here? When Lin's son was about to turn around and leave, the yellow-robed old man asked in a gentle voice. Yes. Lin's son nodded. Seeing that Lin's son stopped, the yellow-robed old man smiled and said, My little friend, you don't need to be vigilant and vigilant. We are not from the 6th heaven. This time, we are also here to subdue the order power. If you don't mind, you can come over and have a chat. After thinking about it, Lin's son nodded and said, All right. With that, he walked straight over. A hint of appreciation appeared in the eyes of the yellow-robed old man. It's just a Zhu Xing ancestor. In such a dangerous and unpredictable place, he can still be so calm and composed when he accidentally met them. This young man is indeed extraordinary. Walking into the black light forbidden area, Lin's son put away the abyssal sword cauldron. This is a relatively safe area, with only a few restrictions and order power. Friend, what's your name? Which family are you from? Seeing Lin's son approaching, the only woman couldn't help but ask curiously. Her voice was soft, delicate, and very pleasant. She was wearing a light green dress, and her waist was slender. She had an oval face, creamy skin, and eyes like the stars. She was delicate and beautiful, and her black hair was tied into a ponytail, which added a lively charm to her. The others also looked at Lin Sun, sizing him up without a trace. Ling it's too rash of you to ask this. Lin Sun was considering whether to answer, but the yellow-robed old man had already said with a smile, "We meet by chance, so names are not important. If we are fated, we will know each other. If not, after this meeting, I'm afraid we will never meet again. In that case, why bother asking this question?" The woman called Ling blinked her big eyes and said, "That's right. When Brother Chunjun returns, we will leave this sixth heaven." Brother Chunjun? Lin Sun keenly noticed the title of brother. In the eternal world, most of the characters who can be called immortal forces are clans. Only in some schools and academies will they accept descendants, and that's why they have the title of brother. Obviously, this group of people is very likely to come from a certain school. Moreover, the other party said that when Brother Chunjun returns, he will leave the sixth heaven. This also means that the other party's force is very likely to be in the seventh heaven, or even the eighth heaven. After all, the aura of this yellow-robed old man is far beyond the ordinary immortal level. Since they dare to enter the mysterious forbidden area together, how could they be ordinary people? Little friend, it seems that you have guessed something. The yellow-robed old man looked at Lin Sun with a meaningful look. It's just a guess. Lin Sun looked calm, neither humble nor arrogant. Haha, in that case, if you continue to hide it, it will seem like you are not magnanimous enough. The yellow-robed old man laughed heartily. To tell you the truth, this old man is Mo Lanshan from the Yuan sect's ancestral court. This time, I brought these descendants to travel together. Yuan sect's ancestral court. Lin Sun's heart shook, and the look in his eyes changed. How could he not know one of the four great ancestral courts, the Yuan sect's ancestral court, which is regarded as a transcendent force by the entire eternal world? This is a behemoth that even the 10 immortal giants of the eighth heaven have to treat with respect. At this time, looking at the surprised expression on Lin Sun's face, the woman called Ling and the three men beside her couldn't help but feel proud, and their expressions became more reserved. This is a kind of attitude that only the descendants of the Yuan sect's ancestral court have, a kind of reserved pride. Of course, it is pride of the sect. With their status, it is not worthwhile to put on any airs in front of Lin Sun, a person they met by chance. There is no need. So, is the senior and disciple of the Yuan sect's ancestral court. I was disrespectful just now. Lin Sun slightly cupped his hands. His heart really can't calm down. The Yuan sect's ancestral court is like a superpower, and very few descendants walk the world, so it has always given people a mysterious feeling. But even so, no one dares to ignore the existence of the Yuan sect's ancestral court. 7 years ago, when Lin Sun was still dormant in the fifth heaven, the news that the Yuan sect's ancestral court will recruit disciples 10 years later spread, and it shocked the entire eternal world. It was also at that time that Lin Sun understood how terrifying the Yuan sect's ancestral court, one of the four great ancestral courts, has been, and how transcendent its status is. However, he didn't expect to meet someone from the Yuan sect's ancestral court in this mysterious, forbidden land. And the other party obviously came to subdue the power of order. Imperceptibly, they are actually in a relationship of competition. What's worse is that Brother Chunjun in the other party's camp has already taken action. Thinking of this, Lin Sun didn't intend to delay any longer and decided to continue. "Hey, we have already told you where we came from. Shouldn't you also tell us where you came from?" The woman called Ling asked with her watery eyes. "You will know if fate allows it." Lin Sun smiled and cupped his hands. "Senior, friend of the Yuan sect's ancestral court, I will take my leave first." After saying that, he walked into the distance. Linger was stunned. She opened her beautiful eyes and said, "He left just like that?" A man in a jade robe said with a smile, "After knowing our origin, he must be anxious. He is worried that the power of order distributed in this place will be taken away by Brother Chunjun." A young man in a scholar's robe with a cold expression frowned and said, "He is just an ancestor of Zhu Xing Emperor. How dare he subdue the power of order here?" Isn't it a bit too arrogant? His treasure is good. It can fight against the power of order. Maybe he really has a way to subdue the power of order here. Another man in a black robe, carrying an ancient sword on his back and crossing his arms in front of his chest, said lazily, "Unfortunately, he came a step too late." Listening to the words of these descendants, the yellow-robed old man smiled and didn't comment. His eyes were fixed on the place where Lin Sun disappeared, thinking, that sword cauldron was indeed wonderful. Could it be that he is the most popular young man in the sixth heaven recently? P.S. I wish everyone a happy Children's Day. Always have the heart of Cheng and be happy and carefree. In addition, on the first day of the month, please ask for a guaranteed monthly ticket. Chapter 2760. Martial Uncle M.O. Did you see something? Ling who was wearing a light green dress, couldn't help but ask. I've almost guessed his identity. M.O. Lanshan nodded and said, if it's really him, then Chun Jun has met his match. Ling, and the others were stunned. The man in the jade robe said, Martial Uncle, Brother Chun Jun is the leader of our ninth peak. He was born with a fire Dao body. He was brought into the sect by Master when he was 9 years old. After cultivating for less than 500 years, he became an ancestor. Now, his combat power is among the top 3 in the ninth peak and the top 20 in the entire ninth peak. How can anyone in the sixth heaven be his opponent? The man in the jade robe was called Huang Muji. He was also a descendant of the ninth peak of the Origin sect. Among the people he admired the most in his life, there was this Brother Chun Jun. Yes, Master once said that if it wasn't for seeking the most complete path of the immortal Tao, with Brother Chun Jun's foundation, he could have stepped into the immortal Tao 100 years ago. The man in the Confucian robe with a cold expression also said, under such circumstances, I really can't see what ability that person has to fight against Brother Chun Jun. His name was Meng Haochen. There is always someone better than you. Who can say for sure? However, I also want to ask Martial Uncle Mo, why do you think that friend just now can fight against Brother Chun Jun? The other man, who looked sloppy and lazy, asked with a grin. His name was Zhuolin. Meng Haochen, Zhuolin, and Huang Muji were all descendants of the ninth peak. Yes, Martial Uncle Mo, please tell me. Ling Er's voice was soft as she asked curiously. Her full name was Qin Ruoling. She was the youngest in the ninth peak, but she was the most favored because her father was the master of the ninth peak. M.O. Lanshan smiled and said, when Chun Jun comes back, you can ask him and you will know. Everyone was speechless for a while. At this time, Martial Uncle M.O. was really boring. However, because of this, they became more and more curious. Who was that young man just now? Why did Martial Uncle M.O. treat him so favorably? Rumble. The surging restriction order rose and fell like an ocean, causing the heavens and the earth to be covered in chaos, while countless restriction Tao markings flowed about, and they formed layer upon layer of killing tribulations. The Forbidden Zone was more terrible than Lin Sun had expected. All sorts of restrictions and orders interweaved with each other, and together they formed this vast and dangerous Forbidden Realm. Along the way, Lin Sun had identified 6 different kinds of prohibition orders, among which there was the Breath of Prohibition Order. This refreshed Lin Sun. This proved that the spirit of order hadn't been subdued by senior Brother Chun Jun from the Origin sect's ancestral court. This time, Lin Sun didn't come for anything else but the spirit of order. According to Master Lu, the order spirit had already merged with the entire Dark Forbidden Zone, which was incredible. Among the 9 forbidden orders, it was the most unique one. Lin Sun kept moving forward as he sensed the power of the prohibition and order that shrouded the world. The abyssal sword cauldron floated up and down, emitting rumbling sounds that helped him neutralize the terrifying attacks he encountered along the way. Otherwise, with his current level of cultivation, he would have been killed many times over. After an hour, Lin Sun suddenly noticed that in an area far to his left, there was an extremely majestic and terrifying aura that belonged to the source of the order energy. There was no doubt that the source of the order energy was buried in that area. Lin Sun pondered for a moment, but eventually gave up and decided to move forward. He didn't dare to delay, fearing that senior brother Chun-Jun would subdue the spirit of order before him. Just like that, he moved forward for about 4 hours. Along the way, Lin Sun encountered 3 completely different kinds of the source of the order energy, and each of them had their own wonders. Unfortunately, they weren't the source of the order energy. The order energy along the way hasn't been subdued. Does this mean that senior brother Chun-Jun has the same goal as me? Lin Sun frowned. He quickened his pace. After an hour, the scene in front of him changed abruptly. He had arrived at a vast and boundless world, which was completely formed by the power of prohibition. But there was almost no difference from the real world. Mountains could be seen everywhere. The world was vast, and the void was full of primitive atmosphere. It was also after entering this world of prohibition that Lin Sun felt the strong source energy of the order energy for the first time. The spirit of order energy must be here. Lin Sun took a deep breath and was about to search for it when a fierce battle sound came from afar. He was stunned, and the corner of his mouth twitched imperceptibly. Sure enough, the scene he didn't want to see the most appeared. Shaking his head, he leaped forward. Not long after, he saw a figure as tall as a pine tree fighting fiercely with a black giant axe under the sky. The black giant axe was extremely terrifying. When it was waved, it splashed hundreds of millions of the order energy, which turned into numerous restrictive formations and smashed the void into pieces. The power emitted by the huge black axe caused the mountains on the ground to collapse and shatter, causing dust to fill the sky. It was terrifying to the extreme. Is this the spirit of order energy? Lin Sun was greatly surprised. He didn't expect the spirit crystal of order to take the shape of a giant axe, which was completely different from Wu Shuang, who looked like a pure girl. And Master Lu had never told him that the spirit of order energy would be an axe. Immediately, Lin Sun's eyes were attracted by the tall and handsome figure. It was a man who could only be regarded as slightly handsome. He wore a plain robe, and his long black hair was coiled into a bun. Compared with his appearance, his momentum was too special. His temperament was as calm as a mountain, but his fighting methods were as wild and violent as fire, giving people a strong sense of contradiction. Lin Sun could tell at a glance that this man was also a Joseon emperor, but completely different from the Joseon emperor he had seen before. The power he wielded was even more terrifying, and the power he possessed was even more powerful. Every move he made was like a king patrolling the country, proud and disdainful. It was a kind of real invincible style, a kind of invincible confidence that stood proudly on the road to the emperor. The successor of the Yuan sect's ancestral court is indeed as powerful as the rumors say. I have never seen such a style in my life. Lin Sun couldn't help but be moved. He had been cultivating until now, from the Kiliakazam battle domain all the way to the sixth heaven. Many years ago, he no longer put people of the same realm in his eyes. For example, Qi Lingyun, Zhongli Shao, and other Joseon emperor ancestors of the eighth heaven were no match for him at all. But at this moment, from the successor of the Yuan sect ancestral court, he actually felt a kind of similar aura, a wonderful feeling of I have an enemy. Without a doubt, this was the brother Chun-Jun that the descendants of the Yuan sect's ancestral court talked about. However, Lin Sun also noticed that in this battle, Chun-Jun didn't rely on his own cultivation, but used a treasure to fight against the black giant axe. This was a bronze short spear. When it was swung, numerous crystalline and translucent flames of order surged out into appearance, and they revealed a scarlet red sheen. Every time they collided, the bronze short spear would burst into a rain of flames that seemed to burn the sky, producing a clanging sound that shook people's hearts. Lin Sun recognized at a glance that this bronze short spear was a secret treasure that could borrow the power of order. Moreover, the power of order was extremely terrifying. It was at least a 9th level heaven rank order related to flames. Not simple. Lin Sun sighed in his heart. It was also at this moment that he felt a kind of pressure from the same realm. This made him not surprised, but happy, because in this realm for many years, he had been invincible and lonely for many years. What did it feel like to be lonely at the top? In the past, Lin Sun didn't understand, but in the realm of Ju Xian Emperor, he tasted this kind of feeling. But now, Lin Sun finally realized that he was not the only one, and he was destined to not be as bored as before. He even couldn't help but think that if the descendants of the Yuan sect's ancestral court were like this, then in the ancestral court of the Spirit sect, the ancestral court of the Zen sect, and the ancestral court of the Witchcraft sect, there were probably many similar peers. Suddenly, the battlefield in the distance changed. The black giant axe that was fighting fiercely with Chun Jun turned into a light, suddenly tore the void, and disappeared, running away again. I like to see how many times you can escape. Chun Jun, dressed in plain clothes, didn't seem to be surprised. He put away the bronze short spear and was about to take action when he suddenly turned his head. Then, he saw Lin Sun in the distance. When their eyes met in the void, the whole world was silent, and an invisible contest spread like a surging undercurrent. Do you also come to subdue the order of the Forbidden Land? After a while, Chun Jun took the lead to speak. His voice was clear and resounded through the world. There was a trace of surprise between his eyebrows. In his eyes, Lin Sun in the distance looked calm, his eyes indifferent, and his pupils were calm, which made him feel that he couldn't see through him. Yes, Lin Sun was very calm. On the way before, I met your master. If I guess right, you are Chun Jun, right? Chun Jun nodded, showing a look of understanding, and said, "It turns out that you have already met Master Amo. My surname is Yi, and my Taoist name is Chun Jun. May I ask your name?" Lin Daoyuan, Lin Sun said. This name was completely strange to Yi Chun Jun, and he couldn't help but be a little surprised. Was this person the ancestor of the sixth heaven? But why hadn't he heard of it before? After thinking about it, Yi Chun Jun said, "Taoist Lin, if you also come for the spirit of the Forbidden Land, then I'm afraid we are opponents." His voice was indifferent and calm. "It seems that it is true." Lin Sun sighed. "I can see that Brother Yi will never give up, and I can't give up, so there's only one way to choose. Brother Lin, you are a straightforward man, and I have a tacit understanding." Yi Chun Jun couldn't help laughing. His eyes were bright, and his voice was as clear as a bell, resounding through the world. "In that case, I would like to see your means." There was a touch of extremely restrained arrogance and confidence in his expression. Chapter 2761. Lin Sun stepped into the void and stood in the sea of clouds. He looked at Li Chun Jun from a distance and said, "How to decide the winner?" Yi Chun Jun thought for a while and said, "Since it's for the chance, there's no need to fight to the death. Whoever loses will give up. How about that?" "Okay." Lin Sun nodded. Yi Chun Jun didn't expect Lin Sun to agree so readily. He said with a smile, "Brother Lin, why do I feel that you are a little impatient?" Lin Sun was stunned and said, "Really? That's because I've met my match." Yi Chun Jun laughed. "I can see that Brother Lin has been lonely in this realm for a long time. In this case, how about you and I compete in our cultivation?" Lin Sun said casually, "Of course." Yi Chun Jun raised his eyebrows and thought about the words "of course" in his heart. How arrogant must he be to dare to say these words so casually? Knowing that he came from the ancestral court of Yuan's sect, Lin Daoyuan was still so calm. This Lin Daoyuan was destined to be incomparable to ordinary Juetian ancestors. At this moment, he also had a feeling of kindred with Lin Sun as Lin Sun saw him for the first time. It was also at this time that Yi Chun Jun understood why Lin Sun just said, "I've met my match." Lin Sun was not arrogant, but from the bottom of his heart. And this kind of mentality was undoubtedly the invincible mind that had been honed by killing for a long time. It had long been integrated into the bones, so he was so calm and relaxed. "Well, today I will try my best to fight with Brother Lin on the peerless path." Yi Chun Jun's eyes were bright like stars, and his tranquil state of mind burst forth with boiling battle intent at this moment. His entire aura changed, and his sleeves fluttered in the wind. Countless burning stars began to condense around him, making him look like the lord of the burning stars. Boom! The world was turned upside down. Yi Chunjun took a step forward and directly tore the sky. He came to Lin Sun and hit him with his palm. His fair and slender palm suddenly seemed to have transformed into an enormous and vast universe. Countless stars were blazing within his palm as they rumbled and exploded, and they emanated a terrifying and violent aura of destruction. This palm was terrible. A strange look appeared in Lin Sun's eyes. Sure enough, it was just as he had sensed. He had extremely shocking attainments in the extinction ancestor realm. He could see some clues from the might of this palm. Thinking of this, Lin Sun also struck with his palm. This palm strike surged like an abyss, and it was indescribably obscure. As soon as it collided with Chunxi's palm strike, a fluctuation of energy that shook the heavens and the earth instantly arose between them. The nearby void continuously exploded, spreading out in all directions. The terrifying aura of ancestor realm laws surged through the 9 heavens and 10 earth. Boom! Their figures intersected, and then they stood in midair while their gazes met. Their shapeless battle intent collided, and it caused the heavens and the earth to be suffused with an icy cold and murderous aura that pierced the bone. Brother Lin is indeed extraordinary. Yi Chunjun was slightly shocked. With his current cultivation, he was also a top-notch existence among the descendants of the Yuan sect's ancestral court, even if he was not truly invincible. But according to the elders of his sect, apart from the Yuan sect's ancestral court, in the entire eternal true world, only the spirit sect, the Zen sect, and the witchcraft sect had people who could fight against him. But now, in the chaos demon sea of the 6th heaven, he had actually encountered an extremely powerful opponent. It was obvious that the opponent was not a descendant of the 4 ancestral courts, but his strength was not inferior to some of the top descendants of the 4 ancestral courts. Brother Yi, you and I have both been immersed in this realm for many years. Since we want to determine the winner and loser, there is no need to test each other. You can fight with all your strength. Lin Sun said. This blow also made Lin Sun realize that it was not easy to defeat Yi Chunjun. But the more it was like this, the happier Lin Sun was. As he said, he had been invincible for too long and finally found someone who could fight with him. He was very lucky. Sure, Yi Chunjun grinned while his pupils were suffused with the glow of blazing divine flames, and his imposing aura rose steadily along with it. In the end, his entire body was enveloped in surging flames, and his bearing was unrestrained and violent. Brother Lin, I cultivate the saber. Watch carefully. Boom! Yi Chunjun came in the air. The world trembled with him, and the void collapsed and cracked under his feet. In his hand, a ray of saber light came from nothingness and condensed into a snow-white saber. This saber, like the Buddhist commandment blade, the magic saber in the hands of the king, and the sacrificial saber, was a fusion of thousands of sabers in the world. Saber is the Tao, the strong laws of ancestor realm condensed into a crystal, white divine flame, which diffused from the blade. It seemed to have a domineering and terrifying aura that could destroy the sky. Whoosh! As Yi Chunjun chopped out with his saber, it was like a hot knife through butter. In a twinkling of an eye, it fell on Lin's head and chopped down. A horrible scene appeared. When this saber chopped down, the sun and the moon lost their light, and the stars dimmed. All the brilliance was concentrated on the saber. Saber is the Tao. Between heaven and earth, the sound of the gods chanting suddenly resounded, giving people the feeling that this saber represented the will of the Tao, and no one in the world could stop it. This was undoubtedly horrible. As the saber light approached, Lin Sun's eyes lit up, and the fighting spirit in his heart was completely aroused. Buzz! The abyssal sword cauldron appeared by a hair's breadth, blocking the saber that was slashing towards his head. The saber let out a clear and impassioned saber cry, and a vast expanse of white flames burst forth, causing the abyssal sword cauldron to buzz violently. The power was so horrible that Lin Sun's blood and qi were rolling. He became more and more excited. Yi Chunjun was really a worthy opponent. Yi Chunjun was unperturbed even though his blade was blocked. His figure became even more agile, and the saber in his hand let out an earth-shattering cry as he slashed out again. His appearance was not outstanding, but at this time in the battle, he was so proud and frightening. His movements were wanton and aggressive like fire. At this time, with a saber in hand, he seemed to be able to slaughter the world. Soon, the boiling saber light almost completely submerged the place where Lin stood. There was saber light and the Tao everywhere. Saber is the Tao. Lin Sun no longer reserved his strength. His tall figure was full of obscure Tao light. His eyes were cold like lightning, and his black hair was fluttering. Boom! The abyssal sword cauldron rose into the air and fought fiercely with Lin Sun like a god. As the battle went on, Lin Sun became more and more calm. His whole body was like an old well with a bright moon in the sky and mercury pouring down. On the other hand, the battle intent in his body seethed more and more. It became more and more condensed. Every single strike he struck possessed the might to traverse the sky and sweep through everything in its path. He had been standing at the top of the ancestor realm for too long, and he had never been defeated in this realm. The appearance of Yi Chunjun, who was in the same realm, undoubtedly successfully ignited Lin Sun's fighting spirit. Brother Lin, I created my own imperial scripture, Fire Virtue Fatality Doctrine, in which there are 3 sabers of fatality, which I refined with my own talent and painstaking efforts. Do you dare to have a look? In the battle, Yi Chunjun spoke loudly. The more he fought, the more carefree he was, and the more arrogant he was. At this moment, Lin Sun made him feel like a lifelong enemy, which made him excited. His mind was ready to fight, and he had a strong fighting spirit. Why not? Lin Sun laughed, which resounded through the world. Okay. The saber in Yi Chunjun's hand changed again. All the light was condensed at the tip of the saber. The light source at the tip of the saber was like the first light of the birth of a world, bringing light to everything in the world. The horrible and fierce killing spirit made the nearby mountains and rivers collapse like paper paste. Lin Sun's pupils suddenly narrowed. The breath of fate? No. This was different from the shackles of fate in Xia Zhi's body. Was it the mystery of fire virtue fatality in her talent? Interesting. As his mind turned, Lin Sun took a deep breath, and his whole breath suddenly turned into a deep abyss. It was boundless and unfathomable. It was immeasurable and indescribable. At this moment, Yi Chunjun chopped at Lin Sun. The past can't be chased. The light condensed on the edge of the saber simply ignored the space barrier and suddenly shot to Lin Sun, trying to penetrate his body and cut off his past cultivation. This was incredible. It involved the secret of fate, which was too horrible. Even Lin Sun was amazed by it. With a thought in his mind, the sword cauldron rose into the air, sprinkling hundreds of millions of lights, reflecting the Tao of heaven and deducing all the laws in the world. It seemed to be eternal and immovable. This was the extreme deduction of the Great Way Furnace scripture, which also integrated Lin Sun's efforts. Clang, clang, clang. As the blade chopped at Lin Sun, a series of divine flames burst out of the abyssal sword cauldron, producing a sound that could shatter one's soul and resound through the sky. However, no matter how powerful the saber was, it was blocked by Lin Sun's abyssal sword cauldron in the end. I can't stay in this world. Yi Chunjun changed his saber again. On the saber, there was the breath of silence, killing, and destruction. The original white divine flame light suddenly turned as black as ink. It was as deep as the eternal night, as if it wanted to drag the world into darkness and annihilation, sinking it into oblivion for all eternity. This saber was more terrifying than before. Boom! The world formed by the power of prohibition was suddenly in disorder. Everything in the world was submerged by the ink-like darkness, and even the light and shadow disappeared. Even the saber in Yi Chunjun's hand seemed to disappear. The darkness was as silent as the abyss, which was also frightening. At this time, Lin Sun and his sword cauldron also changed. It seemed to turn into a real abyss, rotating in the nothingness, releasing the terrible energy of annihilation and devouring. When the darkness came, it was like falling into the abyss, swallowed and obliterated by large pieces. The darkness, like the night, could devour everything in the world and make everything in the world disappear. But at this time, the darkness fell into the abyss forever. Boom! In just a moment, the endless darkness collapsed, and the world suddenly became bright. In the void, the abyss was suspended, becoming the only constant one. In the far distance, Yi Chuanjuan's face had become dignified, and his eyes were blazing like the sun. The second slash had been neutralized just like that. This scene was a great shock to him. The Great Way is like an abyss, merging all Tao. Brother Lin's means are really good. He sighed with emotion, not stingy with his praise. The means Lin Sun showed were really amazing and incredible. But immediately, the momentum around him changed. He bent his fingers and tapped the saber in his hand. With the clear sound of the saber resounding through the sky, he said, "Next is the third saber I am most proud of in my life. Please give me some advice." Chapter 2762. Yi Chuanjuan's voice fell. Vast, surging, and dazzling divine flames seethed from his body, and then they condensed into an ancient and mysterious totem. The totem was like a blazing sun, and it emanated a supreme aura that seemed like the source of all flames. Boom! As he raised the saber in his hand, the ancient and mysterious totem covered his saber. Suddenly, the bright blade seemed to be alive, emitting amazing divine aura. This was the chi of fire virtue. In the eyes of practitioners, fire virtue was a kind of innate luck, like a God-given power involving fate. Among thousands of people, there might not be a lucky one with a Taoist body of fire virtue. Yi Chuanjun was undoubtedly an exception. He was born with the power of fire virtue and became the ancestor of Zhu Xian Emperor. With his superb understanding and perseverance, he created the imperial scripture of fire virtue fatality. This was an imperial scripture deduced by the perfect integration of his own talent and cultivation, which could be called unprecedented. At this time, Yi Chuanjun integrated all his talent of fire virtue into the saber. It was easy to imagine how powerful the third slash would be. Boom! The world was turned upside down, and the sun and moon lost their light. In the whole world, Yi Chuanjuan's body seemed to be burning, as if he had become the only light. The power was strong enough to shock ghosts and gods. In the distance, Lin Sun's eyes were deep and bright. Feeling the pressure coming to his face, he couldn't help but feel a strong expectation in his heart. Although this strike had not been made yet, there was no doubt that it was destined to be the extreme embodiment of Yi Chuanjuan's cultivation. It was a peerless strike refined by his lifelong efforts. Perhaps, as he said before, this third strike was the proudest one in his life. Clang! A melodious sound of the saber resounded, as if it came from ancient times, penetrating the power of people's hearts. The next life is uncertain. Yi Chuanjuan's clothes fluttered, and he stepped in the air like a sword immortal. His bearing was extraordinary, and the saber in his hand chopped down lightly. It was so casual, simple, and unworldly. But when this saber was chopped out, anyone would feel that their soul was torn, their mind was split, and their body was destroyed. It seemed that the saber was the judgment from heaven. It was like a guillotine. This was no longer a Taoist technique in the ordinary sense. Instead, it was a saber that condensed all of one's talent, essence, spirit, will, and spirit, fusing all of one's cultivation and wisdom together. Everything in a world was reduced to a background. Only this saber descended into the world like an immortal or a god. However, Lin Sun managed to block the strike that was powerful enough to shock the world and make ghosts cry. Clang! The ear-piercing sound of the collision resounded through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and the terrifying saber chi spread out, shattering the heavens and splitting the earth. However, it could not break the defense of the abyssal sword cauldron. However, the terrifying power shook Lin Sun's rock-like figure, making his blood and chi surge violently, and forcing him to take a step back. The void under his feet also collapsed and exploded, and waves of air swept out. At this moment, Lin couldn't help but be moved. What a powerful saber! In the distance, space surged, and Yi Chuanjuan's tall and handsome figure appeared. However, at this moment his expression was slightly stunned, and he seemed to be shocked and in disbelief. The afterlife was unpredictable. This was the peak of his cultivation. When he used his full strength, even his senior brothers and sisters who were ranked higher than him in the Origin Religion's ancestral court would have to avoid him. Even if he blocked it, he would still suffer heavy injuries. In the Extinction Ancestor realm, the difference in cultivation was extremely minute. The difference in battle prowess was sometimes extremely difficult to assess. But Yi Chunjun didn't expect that Lin Sun could block his saber in the same realm. He didn't dodge or retreat. From the beginning to the end, he stood there as if he had never been moved, forcefully dispelling his attack. There were no injuries. This caused Yi Chuanjuan's firm Dao heart to soundless ripples to arise within it. After a strange silence, Yi Chunjun couldn't help but sigh softly and bitterly smile. Brother Lin's attainments in this realm are indeed impressive. Lin Sun's eyes were deep and bright. He asked, "Anything else?" Yi Chunjuan's third blade made him feel pressure that he had not felt in a long time. It had been many years since he had felt such pressure from someone in the same realm. Yi Chunjun was stunned. His lips twitched and he said, "Nothing else." Then he noticed that Lin Sun frowned at first, and then there seemed to be a hint of disappointment on his face. Yi Chunjun, who was proud and conceited, couldn't help crying and laughing. After that, his expression became solemn as he said, "Brother Lin, you've already witnessed my 3 strikes of destiny, but this battle hasn't ended. I want to experience your strongest offensive ability as well." At this moment, Lin Sun's face flashed with a trace of hesitation, and then he said, "Okay." Yi Chunjun was puzzled why Lin Sun hesitated. Lin Sun wouldn't tell him that whether he used the Forbidden Death or the Gate of Exile, there was no need for this battle at all. He didn't want to suppress this worthy opponent in one fell swoop. After all, it was hard to meet a worthy opponent. The next moment, Lin Sun's momentum suddenly changed. He stepped into the void and walked towards Yi Chunjun. Every step he took contained an extremely strong pressure. Yi Chunjun didn't feel anything at first, but soon his face became serious. He noticed that Lin Sun's momentum was rising in a terrible way. In the end, his body was slightly stiff and his mind was under invisible pressure. Yi Chunjun took a deep breath. His clothes were fluttering, and he ran his cultivation to the extreme. His eyebrows were full of firmness and calmness. Lin Sun could resist his 3 blades of fate. He didn't believe that he couldn't resist Lin Sun's most powerful attack. Until the distance between the two was only 300 meters. Lin Sun suddenly stopped, clenched his fist, and punched silently. Boom! The world seemed to be unable to bear the power of this punch, and suddenly became chaotic and upside down. The horrible fist power was filled with the aura of devouring the world. Looking from a distance, this punch was like a god of heaven waving the power to destroy the world. A strong sense of danger surged in Yi Chunjuan's heart. He immediately drove his saber to the extreme, and the buzzing of the saber resounded through the sky. However, this didn't eliminate the feeling of being oppressed and suffocated. This made his face change slightly. Without hesitation, he activated a supreme secret defensive skill. But at this moment, an accident happened. A figure suddenly appeared in the field, waved his sleeves, and an immortal divine light emerged and dissolved Lin's punch. Boom! The divine light splashed. Although the fist power dissipated, the figure who came suddenly couldn't help but be surprised. It seemed that the power of this punch was far beyond his expectation, so he was a little surprised. Lin Sun frowned and immediately stopped. In the distance, Yi Chunjun was surprised. "Master Mo, what are you?" The figure who suddenly intervened was the yellow-robed, white-haired Mo Lan Hai with a feather fan in his hand. He said with a smile, "Don't blame me for being abrupt. Time is pressing, and we should leave. Yi Chunjun was very confused. Even if time was pressing, there was no need to be in such a hurry, right? Mo Lanshan looked at Lin Sun and said, "My little friend, what do you think?" Lin Sun said calmly, "There must be a reason since the senior made a move. I don't think it's important." Mo Lanshan heard the alertness and displeasure in Lin Sun's tone, but he was not annoyed. He said with a smile, "What if I told you to give up the spirit of order here and leave?" Lin Sun frowned and said after a moment of silence, "It's already merciful that the senior didn't attack me. How can I not be sensible? Goodbye." After that, he turned around and left. Looking at his back, Yi Chunjun couldn't help saying, "Brother Lin, wait." Lin Sun stopped and said, "What's the matter?" Yi Chunjun's expression was uncertain. After a while, he sighed and said, "I lost this battle. According to the agreement, I should give up the spirit of order here." This surprised Lin Sun. He looked back at Yi Chunjun and said, "You will embarrass the senior by doing this." There was an obvious sarcasm in his words. But Mo Lanshan laughed and said, "Chunjun, you are magnanimous and honest. I'm happy for you. Why would I be embarrassed?" After a pause, he looked at Lin Sun meaningfully and said, "But you, my little friend, seem to have accumulated a lot of anger in your heart." Lin Sun said calmly, "It's normal to be angry. After all, I came here to subdue the spirit of order here. But I have no choice. With the senior here, I'm sure that this opportunity has nothing to do with me. Moreover, the senior didn't kill me. No matter how unwilling I am, I have to appreciate it." Mo Lanshan's eyes were full of admiration. He said, "You have a sense of propriety when you are willing to give up. With such a state of mind, you are worthy to be the successor of Fong Siyuan." Lin Sun's eyes narrowed slightly and then calmed down. It was not surprising that his identity was seen through by such an old monster with unimaginable strength. He just couldn't figure out the attitude of Mo Lanshan towards the successor of Fong Siyuan. After all, in the current eternal world, the 10 immortal giants of the 8th heaven had threatened to wipe out the successors of Fong Siyuan one by one. Mo Lanshan said, "My little friend, if I tell you that the spirit of order here is left behind by an old man from the ancestral court of Yuan's sect, what would you think?" Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. What would he think in this situation? Of course, he didn't dare to think about it or ask. What else could he do? Mo Lanshan seemed to have seen through Lin Sun's thoughts and said, "This mysterious forbidden zone is a primordial land of chaos. A long time ago, the old man from the ancestral court of Yuan's sect came to this place and left the spirit of order here, so that the spirit of order could refine and absorb the primordial chaotic aura in this mysterious forbidden zone to achieve its own transformation. And now, I've led Chunjun and the others here. Firstly, it's to train their cultivation. Secondly, it's also to help that old fellow bring back the spirit of order." After listening, Lin Sun believed it a little. With Mo Lanshan's identity and means, if he really wanted to take over the spirit of order, there was no need for him to explain so much. However, the disappointment in his heart was inevitable. "If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first." Lin Sun cupped his hands and turned to leave. However, Mo Lanshan stopped him.